Hey everybody, welcome to the UD6 September tournament. This is the first turn and I'm with Mythical. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Twin. Thanks for asking. We got a lot of hungry people competing today. This is not their last chance. It is our last major tournament of the UD6 season. There is still the October last chance fiasco that's going to happen that everyone is hoping to avoid, and this is their last chance to avoid it, qualifying for grand finals if they finish top two. It's going to be a little bit. It's a long process, even for just a tournament here in the UD6. It's going to be a couple weeks, but today we are going to narrow the field down to 8. We've got 5 games picked out. You can see the overall structure of things pretty far along here in terms of the lead up to the playoffs.
Yeah, time has passed and we got 2 very enjoyable tournaments in July and August. Devil Tifa Brotherman qualified during July, and Skunkoff, through a tough battle, made it finally in August with Cute Shadow that just got a stellar August tournament, just went like blazing through the months. And today obviously is starting the next one, the final one, the September line on the plan. You could see that it was like the final option for those who don't want to go through the brawl that will happen on October the 6th, where everybody is going to play through the 10 games. No elimination, no chance whatsoever, just one shot, you get there, you qualify. But today 13 runners are ready to play through DKC, Trials 2, Mill Slug, Spectrable and Eye of Sorrow, and top 8 will make it to next week, where we are going to play the 5 other games.
Yeah, we've got some familiar names. Pretty much everyone on this list is a familiar name. At this point, I think, underdogs would maybe go to Aestrom and Ayash, but almost everyone here is in the sort of top 20 towards the top of the leaderboards. One player in particular that I've been very impressed with in tournaments has been Ghost Death, and has not been near the top of the leaderboard, mostly because they just didn't have PBs submitted for certain games, but that is not the case anymore. Ghost Death has finally converted that practice into times on the leaderboards, is now in the top 10, sitting at 9th place, is going to be one of the players to look out for sure. And we got some other players to look out for. Fireman returning after the just barely outside of the top 2 to qualify in the August tournament, is back here in September, ready to play. And Sablier, who made it to top 8, and then had a really rough go of it as well. But here's Zoph. Zoph is our 4th place leaderboard member here, highest placing of the people competing today. 2 have already qualified, and Mel West is waiting. He's going to come out swinging like crazy in October, but he's not competing today, so Zoph is, according to PBs, going to be the favorite here today.
Yeah, but they took a big holiday break during the summer, so I don't know how practiced or rusty they are, and they got like impressive time, but compared to Ghostess, who on the other hand just put a ton of practice during July and August, like they've been there learning those games, and now, as you can see, except for maybe Shovel Knight and Eye of Sorrow, the longer and harder games where they don't have race times, yet they have an impressive record on a lot of those games. So it's going to be very interesting to see how well they compete together. But those 2 are like favorite for today and for the overall September tournament. So if everything goes according to plan, and it never does, and they should be the 2 runners that qualify for the grand finals directly through the September tournament. But obviously that would be like undermining the race that is going to the races that are going to happen on today and next Saturday, and obviously the final is going to be in 2 weeks. And Fireman is there for their revenge because they had a tough final. If you haven't seen those races, I'm pretty sure you can find a VOD somewhere, because like they were like doing great and they just failed right at the end, failing to 3rd place when we were qualifying only 2.
Yeah, it was a heroic charge from Fireman. Mostly, putting themselves in that position thanks to having a good Shovel Knight. This was something that got the players a little bit in that tournament and almost able to ride that to victory. But things might be a little different with regards to not only Shovel Knight but also Metal Slug from now on in terms of races here in UD.
Yeah, it's it was important to address that, because like Shovel Knight, the races were all about those problems, like those smaller issues that could cause a runner just to fail, and we just want to encourage the players to be able to beat the games. It's not like the UD is a long and tough process, and getting there. Look at those Sablier's time, by the way. They are 13th place on the overall grind leaderboard, but they have like the 10th place on the races. They got like times everywhere, but Shovel Knight. We're talking about that game, so they should put up a good time, because their best race PB is over 10 minutes, about 10 minutes behind their race PB. So that is a big gap. Except that they have like an impressive record, as you'd expect, lower time in races compared to PB. Some runners do tend to have like the exact or very close times between like overall PB and race PB. And Sablier, they put a lot of work. They got like disappointed with their results, so I do wish them the best of luck, because they are one of those players that really struggle with the stress, the pressure they could put on you a race setting, and it's totally understandable. It is hard to get there and to be not stressed out with like everybody else competing, and as soon as you get a tiny mistake, it can get under your skull. But today we will start by DKC. How do you feel about that?
This is not this is a hard one for a first game, I think. This is probably third, maybe even second biggest thing to worry about in UD. Shovel Knight number 1. But Area of Sorrow and this game are pretty close in terms of being dense, long, and demanding on the player. So this is a rough open for the players, but it's also a game that I think starts off with a couple easy levels that will kind of start to get you into the flow of things, and from there you can hopefully find your footing and get running. And it's kind of something you need to be able to do in UD6. You have to be able to play one game and then totally switch mindsets and play another game and then do that again for 3 more times at least. And so it's something that I think everyone's going to be pretty good at. I think we're going to see some pretty good DKC runs. I'm also seeing Fireman and Ghost Death in the chat, by the way. So appealing to the English-speaking crowd. If you want to cheer for them, they'll see it. You can give them your energy literally, and maybe that will help them out. I'm not sure.
It is a tough game to start with DKC, and as you've stated, being able to switch between games is very important. And if you've never gone through the experience of like just playing one game and switching entirely to another genre, it can get confusing. And DKC, I think it's still one of those games personally I'd like to put very early, so I don't have to get back to and get used to the. It's a specific platformer. It's maybe it aged a little bit, especially compared to say the Endless Night or Shovel Knight. And just like dealing with the game after not the platformer could get harder on some people. I don't know, I'm not sure. But still, having such a long game right away and having to play trials right after that, maybe it's going to be intense. But hey, it is the UD, so you have to be able to play through different games back to back, get ready to race them, and do as well as you can. And obviously, it's impossible to be like perfectly de-rested in practice on all the game at once. So you will have to deal with some issues. Fireman is saying in chat that they're sick and haven't practiced so much, so maybe it's not going to be such a great day for them. But as we are qualifying top 8 today, they have still like a pretty good chance, I'd say. I'm not sure. I do hope they make it though, because I was really like heartbroken when they got like to 3rd place. Obviously, I would have been like super disappointed for Skunkoff, like getting 3rd place, 4th place in July, and then like if they didn't make it top 2 in August, that would have been tough as well. So it's obviously
they can't all win.
Yeah, it's
someone wins and someone loses.
Just please make everybody wins. Everybody win. It's no. They have to, and races in particular are super fun on DKC because it's like we are doing all stages, and as well runner play, it's impossible to get everything perfect, so there are trade-offs, there are choices to be made, and a lot of runner made the wise choice, I'd say, to go with infinite jumping above a lot of levels, more than necessary like all stages like world record. You don't see as many infinite jumps, but it makes the run so much safer and simpler to learn.
Yeah, it's been key, I think, for everyone to take in this approach for DKC. Season is overloaded with games where there is just a ton to learn, and in games where it's far more punishing as well if things don't go so well. So to be able to take a load off in a lot of ways on some of these levels in DKC is really important, especially because these are like the levels that they skip are generally some of the hardest levels in the game to actually execute on. But what's not the hardest level is the first level. So as the players get started and get synced up and things, we'll get going. Ziguigui and Fireman are going to be off and running right now. Ghost Death now as well. And we're opening up with some rolling through some of these naughty enemies. This rolling mechanic is integral to the speedrun. There's a lot of finesse to it. You can release and repress the button to extend the roll, and rolling through enemies, multiple enemies, will sort of chain together and increase your speed. 4 will cap out your speed at a truly ridiculous rate that is pretty hard to control, but is obviously highly desirable in a speedrun. And a lot of the tricky levels that they will be jumping over involve, the only way to really keep up with other strats is to go for a lot of these extendos and some pretty crazy stuff. So as the players get sorted,
look at that, how synced up they are. It's incredible. Like, oh no, like Ziguigui bonked once, but they got like the entire level on the same frame, pretty much. That's insane. But yeah,
I'm starting to wonder if we were switching in a second copy of someone's stream, but then we saw the bonk. And no, that's definitely 2 people.
It's but all those roles are possible that we were talking about are possible almost exclusively with DD. Which means like if you lose DD somehow, you're screwed. Like you need to get Diddy Kong there, and Donkey Kong is barely just following you around, never to be seen on screen, like almost ever, except for that Voltor Culture level where you need to play as Donkey Kong. But it is like as soon as a player is going to make a mistake, they're going to stop, grab the first DK barrel they meet, and just like try to be as safe as possible. And I'd love to see a comparison between the level 1 strats we've seen on DKC throughout the UD6, because I feel like it got simpler. DKC, the players learn like the hard way, learning all the optimal strats for individual levels. And as time passes, when you have to get consistent and you cannot practice so much, everybody is going for slower and safer strat everywhere. And it shows like very well on level 1, where almost nobody ever is doing extendos anymore. It's just like barely trying not to lose DK and just having that extra chance and being sure to make it through.
Yeah, it's really not easy, and like you said, this is a game that it's tough to stay sharp on. the people who run this game tend to run this game or the other Donkey Kong Country games, or they'll have one side game, but the people who truly master this game have to make it a high priority. Otherwise, that you lose an edge that is just simply required for a lot of the crazy stuff, and so it just doesn't work with this format to do some of that stuff. There's a reason why in the awesome resource database for this game that the speedrunners have compiled, it lists multiple strats for every level, and with difficulty ratings that some make sense and some don't. But I think it gets up to like 9 million out of 10 or something for one level. But the reason is because lots of people want to speedrun this game, and there's very, very few people who are capable of doing what the absolute best demands. So there are these safe strats for a reason. Very hard game to optimize, and I think this is a pretty smart adjustment that we've seen from these players.
Yeah, totally. Like, just being able to beat the game, not dying too much. That's something we've seen less and less. Just nobody dies anymore. It's just like a nice mix between trying not to die, playing safe, still trying to go fast. And so far, Fireman does pretty well, beating the first boss in first place, as we see Quick, Zigwigwi, and Ghostess just getting there or just finishing up. Fireman has an entire level worth of lead. World 2 levels are pretty small, but still, it's something that you can be pretty happy about, because they, as we shown at the start of the stream, they don't have like the best overall like PBs and stuff, but just being consistent and getting there, having a good first tournament, especially when they said they were sick and unpracticed, is going to be very nice for confidence, I'd say.
Yeah, I've noticed speedrunners tend to be fairly pessimistic. I don't know if it's just due to the nature of how it's just simply easier to talk about a speedrun in terms of what went wrong, in terms of all the many things that went right. So they tend to focus on, here's the ideal run, and then here's where my run lost time compared to that. And so something about that just seems to attract people with a glass half empty sort of mindset. And so I think maybe Fireman's doing better than he's let on here in Twitch chat. We can take a look at some of the other people here. Exodo, Kerpweek, Salient Demars, also still trucking here in DKC. Pretty close. We've got Fireman ahead by about a level, like you said. Well, I think it's almost 2 now due to the short nature of the last few. A couple levels here in World 2. But basically 1 level ahead. The other 3 are all pretty close, bouncing on tires here.
Yeah, like Zigwigwi was on the exact same tire as Kerpweek just a second ago. Kerpweek just took the time to wait for a B cycle and got DD back, and like it just made like a 10 or 15-second lead just in one few moment there.
Fireman missing the super jump setup at the start of the level. I'm not even sure what went wrong. He jumped on him and just didn't get the boost upwards. So it clearly looked like he was expecting to get it and then didn't. So is going up to this bonus instead of going, oh, there's a DK.
They need DD to be able to set up that infinite jump. So now, if you do everything properly, meaning like losing DK at the exact correct moment and going back, goes death. Yeah, they did not get the correct death animation from DK, so had to commit suicide again. Fireman dies again. Quick is doing something we haven't seen so far, but getting the infinite lives trick to get to 31 extra lives and just be sure they won't like game over ever. Which, if you are not confident, that's something that's totally worth doing.
All right, so Gwigwi gets the trick, but didn't get the barrel, so he's going to try to find it on the way down, and he does. So he's going to be the first one out of here, followed very closely behind by Ghostdeath, who rolls directly through that wheel. Both players now with Donkey, so they're going to want to recover with Diddy pretty quickly. Pretty quick running to the exit, and Fireman is also done. So, well, no, he's going back. He's going back for another Kong, I think. So this is not good.
They're stuck here. So to get the infinite jump glitch, you have to lose DK correctly. So get your hit and then and not kill the Kremlin, sadly. And that's where the infinite jump glitches are pretty nice if you know exactly how to set them up. But if you struggle, they cost a lot of time. It's a long setup. You have to do exactly the correct thing. But it looks like they have it, and they're not finding the barrel. Got it on the way down. Very nicely done. And they should be able to end the level. But Ghostdeath and Digwigwi and Kelpukwick are almost done with Voltor Culture there.
Ghostdeath choosing, I think, intentionally to sacrifice Donkey Kong. Maybe, I'm not sure, but didn't want to wait for another cycle for the barrel to tilt. Just decides to rocket straight through it. Kerpweek as well, going solo Diddy, heading into Forest Frenzy. Very close between these three runners. It was the same situation we saw, except Fireman was a stage ahead, is now a stage behind, and all three runners had a chance to pull ahead from each other, but they all kind of equally messed up the super jump. And now here we are. Zigwigwi is going to be setting up for a super jump again here in Forest Frenzy. And he's got it.
Nice. They went super early on the Kremlin. Usually the runners would wait a little bit to be sure the Kremlin jumps under Diddy instead of Diddy jumping on top of the Kremlin. Because if you mess up, you will just grab the rope that's just next to you and it's going to kill your infinite jump. So you need to do that exactly right. Kerpukwick did not... Wow. I'm not sure. They kept both Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong alive doing that glitch. I was not sure that would work, but did it perfectly. And so now they have that edge compared to Zigwigwi and Ghostdeath that just have Diddy alive so far.
Yeah, this is that was pretty cool to see. Ghostdeath and Zigwigwi are already into the next level. Ghostdeath falling short on a jump in Temple Tempest. You want to make sure that you get Espresso in this level. This is the secret that Zigwigwi is entering. Espresso is a super fast alternative to trying to do all the crazy extendo rolls and everything in this level. So for almost no cost in time, you get a huge increase in safety and consistency. So everyone's going to be going for the bird in this level. But Espresso is pretty tricky to use. Espresso goes fast. Espresso is very big, and the camera is zoomed in, or maybe the sprites are big, depends on what your frame of reference is. But either way, it makes it very hard to react to things that are coming. So it is one of those heavy on memorization sort of levels, and that can trip you up in UD when you're switching from game to game to game. Not everything is crystal clear. Sometimes you're relying on visual information for when do I do this, what's coming up again, oh right, that. And so if you are relying on that stuff, it's moments like these that can be tough.
Yeah, that's where you need to have a nice way to practice those levels that are purely memorization based. When it goes so fast and you have a very few cues to pick up from. Fireman took his time to set up that infinite jumping there, but finally got it. And still a couple of levels behind, while Ghostdeath, Zigwigwi and Kerpukwick are done, or soon to be done, with Orange Gang. And entering that water level, second one. The water levels are probably the hardest to optimize, but as long as you have On Guard, they're not too dangerous.
Yeah, On Guard's pointed nose will take care of things in front of you, but not above and in front of you like we saw with Zigwigwi taking a hit there from an enemy. Killing enemies is good. Getting invincibility frames on the dash is good. And I think most importantly is if you get hit, don't lose your Kong, you lose On Guard, and there's a good chance that you're going to be able to just keep swimming and pick him back right. Except when he goes right. Zigwigwi had to double back for him there. and doesn't want to move on without him. That would be, I think, maybe faster at that point. It's pretty debatable because you do go faster with the charge, but doesn't want to give up the fish here.
Yeah, I totally understand why you would just want to go safe and be sure to keep on DK and Diddy Kong alive, because as long as you can take a hit, you can still go full ham, and if you get a small mistake, it's okay. But like the boss fights are super underwhelming. They're not the most intense boss fight we've seen on the UD, but if you die during a boss fight, you'd lose a lot of time. So just being safe, taking his time to wait for the bee to be vulnerable again, and the boss should be done pretty soon. It's super close between Ghostess and Zigwigwi, so pretty nice to see. Kapwikwik is about 30 seconds behind, and Fireman had a fantastic start, and they're struggling with the third world here, which is pretty unfortunate.
Zigwigwi got hit and lost to Kong in that boss fight, but thankfully it was Donkey Kong, so is not going to have to scramble trying to play with Donkey Kong in order to get to a DK barrel. Would still like to have that safety net though, so is going to stop and pick up Donkey Kong in that barrel as we move into the Snow World, World 4, I think it is. First level is Snow Barrel Blast. I gotta divide up these level names. I'm pretty sure it's Snow Barrel Blast. And there's a nice little trick here you can do with the metal barrel that Ghost Death went for and didn't get, or was able to adjust. If you jump on a slope with that barrel, you will get an increased speed boost that leads to a nice combination series of jumps that is fun to watch. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see it. Maybe Quick will show us.
It's one of those like gimmick you can see on speedruns pretty frequently. Like just a slope is going to allow you to do nice jumps like Mega Man X, and DKC has those moments. As you can see, Ghost Descent and Zigwigwi are like tied to the frame right now. Obviously, it will maybe change, but not during that level. Kapwikwik did not go for the slope jumps with the metal barrel, so they're just going through the level carefully. I'm pretty happy to see them with like 30 extra lives, but I'm pretty sure they won't need it.
Yeah, we were just saying, like, you know, things are really safe with these players now. We don't really see deaths anymore. And I think the last time we played DKC here on UD6, I think we were talking about how we used to be like, you know, a game over is awful in this game. You were just done, basically. It is the kiss of death. And so we would always be a little worried about it. But then I think the last time we had DKC, it was like, no, we're not worried about it. It's not going to happen to these guys. They're past that point. And then Kapwikwik goes that. So Kapwikwik is worried about it. Is not going to have to worry about it anymore thanks to those extra lives. But we're worried enough to do it.
So Ghost Death got Espresso again, and this is a level where it's super important to have them because it saves so much time, but it's also a level where it's almost like impossible to go through perfectly with Espresso. It goes super fast, and you can see Ghost Death just getting beaten by that claptrap there, losing Espresso, and now they have to go painfully slowly through the level. I hope they practiced without the companion, because it's very, very different, and like you don't do exactly what you're used to be doing. You go slower. It's incredible. But using that metal barrel there is pretty cool, and you can see all the game has to offer as they're soon done with the level. Just that final orangutan there that it killed a lot of players, but they made it, so should be fine. And Zigwigwi on the bottom right part of the screen is just going through the level with the infinite jumping, which is the other safe way to go through the level. Slower, but well, you're gonna die, so that's something to take if you're not confident.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nasty level, especially that orangutan, like you said, has really put the screws to some of our runners. Kapwikwik is gonna go ahead and hop into a pit, trying to get Ice Age Alley going. this is a tough level without Espresso. And I think he didn't want to slip into the pit after getting DK back, but we'll see how Kirby recovers from this situation. Ghost Death and Zigwigwi are both into Croctopus Chase, a super duper long water level because you have no on guard. He kind of breaks the Croctopus Chase part of the Croctopus Chase level, so they don't give him to you, and it's just a lot of optimized swimming, finding or maybe not finding the corners of these ambiguous hitboxes on the coral here, and optimizing your movement in these sections is incredibly tough. You're not going to lose too much time in something like the UD6. It's really not worth sweating, but for a DKC expert looking to push their time lower and lower, maybe even challenge the world record, there is a surprising amount of time to be gained from optimizing these swimming sections. Not, hesitations like Ghost Death just had there. Lost about half a second just to swimming a little bit too high and waiting for your character to slowly sink back down so you can progress.
Yeah, the vertical movement can be super slow, and that's why those levels are rated like over 9 million on the Wikipedia for the wiki for DKC speedrunning. So it's where the optimization is the hardest. But as you can see, Kirby, Ghost Death, Zigwigwi, MC, and A-Storm are all on that Croctopus Chase, one of the longest level. It's a nice halfway point through the run, pretty much, and it's just something you have to deal with. No anchor, lots of swimming slowly, and Ghost Death is finally done. Zigwigwi and Kirby should be done as well pretty soon, and we are entering, like, now we're pretty much done with the easy level, and we're entering like the hardest one, the harder one, and this is where it gets tricky because for lag reduction purposes, we do not get the light up, so you have to know exactly and pick up like some cues from like the barrels and the enemies and the mincer you encounter. Like, you have to know exactly where to jump, and that's where usually some runners get their first death. Zigwigwi though got our companion with the flashlight there. This is one of the first time we can see that on stream for the UD6.
Yeah, literally see it now. We can see a lot of things. What we hope we don't want to see is Zigwigwi ever turning left in this level, because when that happens, Squawks will helpfully shine the light the way that you're looking. So if you look left, Squawks will turn from right to left and shine the light that way. But it looks cool, but they threw in this little animation where Squawks turns, keeping the camera facing rather than turning and shining the light into the background. He shines it directly into your face and literally blinds you for at least a frame or two. Can be very distracting if you're trying to do little left-right movements to position yourself correctly. So it looked like Zigwigwi was very well practiced at playing with Squawk. There were several moments where he came up to pause before a jump, waiting for a cycle or whatnot, and just kind of gently came to a stop, almost like a car rolling up on a stop sign. No leftward movement whatsoever, controlling Squawks for his sake and for ours, the viewers.
Nice. Yeah, it's not easy. Oh, they went for the tire roll there right at the end and got there pretty nicely. But Ghost Death got almost half the fight there of a lead, which starts to be pretty comfortable for them. Zigwigwi is just starting on Nodi, the refight there. Just once again, the fights are not where there's the most time to save or to lose. Just have to stay focused. And Ghost Death is setting up an infinite jump there, while Kirby is on that black level, not using Squawks there, just going through trying to reduce the lag. They're done already. And Fireman slowly going through Croctopus Chase. Almost done with the level, but they lost a lot of time on World 3 with the high jumps. They had troubles to set up.
Yeah, there was also a couple deaths in World 4. But I mean, that's a lot of players struggled with a couple things in World 4 as well. So I think generally started keeping pace with at least some of the runners through that world. It really was the previous one, like I said, that got him. But, you know, there's plenty of DKC. Well, maybe not plenty. We are at the halfway point now. But there's some DKC left to play. And there are 4 more games left for Firemen to have a go at qualifying. Is done now with Croctopus Chase. I don't know the level well enough to know where a player is just, you know, jumping in mid-level. So I get worried that, you know, is this the start of Croctopus Chase and we've got like 2 minutes more of swimming, or is this near the end and Fireman's not as far behind as he appears? And it looks like he's not. He's already into Torchlight trouble. But the players have all kind of spread out a little bit here. Zigwigwi is super jumped a little too far at the end of Oil Drum Alley. This can be a thing that happens. You literally are just ascending the whole time that you're doing the super jump, and at some point you have a visual cue or whatever to let off that jump button, start coming back down, but you are so high up it takes a long time to come back down. So most players err on the side of waiting too long, and then you end up kind of hesitating, waiting for Diddy to come back down after the super jump, but he does, and Kripik does move on. Ghost Death with a bad death. Yeah.
Struggling there to get up where they wanted and dying. We could see like the hesitation, and this is one of those hard levels where players tend to die just a little bit. They will grab DD right on the truck, where you can get it super quickly and get back to elevator antics. This is probably one of the levels that killed the most players. I'm not sure, but a lot of the time, due to setting up that infinite jump there, which can be tricky, some runners do tend to die a little bit to it. But if you get the setup correctly, you will get the high jump. But I'm pretty sure Zigwigwi passed them and are there first there on that DKC race. As you can see, Fireman is slowly bouncing on the tires, not going for crazy tire jump rolls, and Kerpukwick is going through with those infinite jumps that just get us to see all that level design carefully crafted for us to totally ignore.
Yeah, there's we're at a moment here where all 4 players are doing something rather uninteresting in terms of I mean, it's probably interesting the first time you see it, but after that you're just seeing the level scroll by, and looks like level's finally done scrolling. Fireman was the only one actually moving a Kong around at the time, but it was just a boss fight that is now over. Moving on to the next world, Zigwigwi in the lead with Poison Pond, a pretty tough water level. The water levels are, you know, very tough to speedrun, but they're generally not tough to beat. But this actually is both. So getting hit a couple times there, and On Guard is not to be found.
Gone?
He's, you know, usually that fish is still over there somewhere, bouncing around, swimming. But I don't know what the limitations are. But I'm pretty sure that fish is gone, so Zigwigwi's going to have to struggle now. Already lost, you know, took a couple hits, down to 1 Kong. At least that Kong is Diddy. Not that it matters too much in the water levels, but
it's pretty sad to have lost like Angard. Like, press F to pay respect to Angard, but also like now you have to play through Poison Pound. Like, they're only halfway through the level. They got the checkpoint right before dying, so that's really good. But it is pretty bad for them. Ghost Death,
no, On Guard,
right
come
with
back.
them, just lost Angard, and yeah, he's just going like, screw it, I don't need Angard. That one I will go back and keep on going, and maybe I'll get another one. I don't remember if there's another Angard crate. But now they're both like losing a lot of time, allowing maybe Kerpukwick and Fireman to catch up if the level will go better for them. Hard to say, but Ghost Death is almost done. Zigwigwi appear to have lost a lot of time due to having to play super safe now, just with DD.
Fireman also is not too far behind, is on elevator antics now. Any level with a super jump is generally a pretty long level. So there's this in Poison Pond, but is starting to kind of be in the same conversation as some of these other runners, and that's pretty cool to see. After that rough start, to not only start playing solid and keep pace, but also start to make ground after that is a really good sign for Fireman, as Ghost Death is doing the jump roll through Minecart Madness.
Fireman is not going for the high jump, by the way, on elevator intakes, just going through the level normally, and maybe they will be able to beat Quick to the end there, because it's supposedly faster to go through the level that way. But obviously, as long as, like, every tiny hesitation will lose you time compared to just going blazing, high jumping over the level, so it's not going to be enough for them, but Ghost Death and Zigwigwi on the same level. Zigwigwi just starting to cartwheel through the air there, which is pretty nice, but you cannot keep on doing that for the entire level, sadly. You have to stop on the halfway point. Oh, and they jumped on the Neki there and died, sadly.
Yeah, you revert back to a normal state when you interact with an enemy in that way. And you really can't afford to be in a normal state when you're counting on being able to fly over everything. So a pretty costly death for Zigwigwi was starting to come back. Ghost Death and Zigwigwi have been trading the lead for the entire. Pretty fun to watch, but this is going to be a pretty hefty advantage for Ghost Death, who is currently in what might be the hardest stage. I'm not, there's a lot of hard stages towards the end of this game, but this is definitely one of them. This is Blackout Basement, and there are very few things you can see when the lights are off. This moving rope, several enemies, like, it's kind of just the bananas. No way are you going to see this moving platform in the dark. And you can see he wasn't sure where the rope was on the cycle, so he jumped out as if it was going to be there, saw it wasn't finally when the lights came on, and was able to adjust. This is the kind of approach that I think most players will take in this level. It is very tricky. It's very scary. It's nerve-wracking, and he's doing a great job of it so far.
Yeah, it is like you are not supposed to stop anywhere during Blackout Basement, and that's probably why it is the hardest level in the run, because on the other hard levels that are upcoming, you have a lot of cycles to wait for, or a lot of moving platform you have to wait on. So going fast is hard, but also sometimes you cannot go any faster than the level wants you to. So Blackout Basement, terrible. And then you have one of the weakest bosses in the entire boss design history. You just have to wait for that old barrel to explode by itself. It's just like, first you are fighting a barrel, so it's not like the most exciting boss ever, and it's just dying by itself. So just a few dodges and they'll be done pretty soon, trying to kill the enemies fast enough, and here we go. So congrats to Ghost Death, first entering World 6, the last world here. We're all going to see some interesting levels and a lot of high jumps, because obviously the harder and the longer the levels, the better the high jump gets.
Fireman and Kerpeek in the same level now. I think Fireman actually ahead. So we're seeing sort of the race is kind of split into two here a little bit. Fireman and Kerpeek on the top, and Ghost Death and Zigwigwi on the bottom. Ghost Death and Zigwigwi have done a great job of giving us a nice back and forth race, but for now, Ghost Death firmly in the lead here on Tanked Up Trouble, I think was the name of this level. No, that's the boss, isn't it? Or is this? I think I'm missing, whatever. But this is a hard level where you need to get these fuel cans, and not going for the jump roll that is possible on this level. It is very hard to set up. It's when people talk about a setup in speedruns, I generally think about something that, like, there's a sequence of moves and it's like a guaranteed thing. There's no guesswork in a setup. There's no fudging, right? You do this setup and it works, and that's not the case here. There's a bit of finesse to it, a bit of timing, and it is pretty tricky. It doesn't cost you too much to go for it, and if you're able to adjust,
that one got scary. Okay, that tire got kind of wonky there. Either you put it on the middle of the platform and you use it to jump and to grab the fuel, or you just ignore it totally and just like do a extended jump to get to the fuel barrel. But that was a bit scary, but they got like through nicely. That's the kind of situation that would never get a runner normally, but in a race setup, like, you can freak out pretty easily due to like small issue like that. But Ghostdeath has no problem whatsoever dealing with everything the game is throwing at them right now, and it's just almost done. Like, you can see them taking their time, killing the naughties, and switching to DDs, preparing for the next level, Manic Mincers, where we are going to just infinite jump immediately, taking a hit. DD gets that weird animation where they fly high, and we just get both Kongs again, and surely enough, a few meters later you get your infinite jump and just will ignore once again the entire level, which is sad because Manic Mincer is a cool one with all those mincers moving around trying to get you. It's not the hardest one, and there are few enemies, but once again it's so much safer and easier to learn to do the high jump rather than learning the entire level normally. Then I totally agree with that choice in the UD setup.
Yeah, especially these later levels. Even if it wasn't so hard to learn them, just being this late into a run, I think matters in terms of performing the executing on these levels in a race at the end of a tough game with a lot going on. So being able to take a load off and not even have to think or worried about these things, I think also counts for a lot, in addition to just the regular speed safety trade-off situation. Ghostdeath showing off another super jump in Misty Mines. We'll see Zigwigwi in Manic Mincers now, one stage behind it. Any stage with a super jump is a pretty long stage, and he gets it. So is I think about 45 seconds behind Ghostdeath, and there's not much DKC left to play, but this is something, there's a couple chances where something can happen, specifically with the final level platform perils. I think there's still loopy lights, but platform perils is the one that has been a problem for some players in the past.
Yeah, it's one, like level 1, platform perils is the level where all the players reverted to the easier strats. We can see a lot more platforms than necessary in platform perils, where everybody is just going with doing what the level wants them to do, basically, instead of doing like the risky roll then jump to grab like a platform out of screen you just barely can see and just barely reaching it. And all the enemies on small platforms are kind of hard to deal with in DKC, so it's just reverting to playing safe. Ghostdeath playing perfectly through that dark level, or maybe they just set up another high jump and just don't care about anything, which once again is nice. That one is pretty hard to learn as well, probably one of the hardest one to play through if you do not have the high jump in a speedrun. But yeah, on the bottom part of the screen we are just ignoring totally what's happening in the game, and Cowboy Quick and Fireman are very close to each other. Fireman is just a little bit ahead, lost DD there, which is a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, this is not the kind of level where you want to be Donkey Kong. It is a good level to be stuck with Donkey Kong in terms of it being a speed run. You know, not having Diddy while you're forced on this waiting section is not really a time loss compared to all the sections where Diddy's roll would be gaining you more and more speed. But it is a tough level because it's tough in the sense that Donkey Kong's hitbox is totally different and his jumps are weird and bad and he sucks and you don't want to use him in these weird sort of niche situations where you're maneuvering around these bees and I mean it's mostly bees. It's you don't want to be dealing with that hitbox in that situation, but either way, he's got both Kongs now. Quake is pretty far along, tanked up Trouble as well, and Ghost Death is starting Platform Perils. Like we said, this was one of those levels to look out for, rolling off that platform straight through the checkpoint that he's going to be pretty glad to have, but hopefully doesn't have to use, and is looking pretty strong at the end of this DKC run.
I'm scared, but Ghost Death is not stopping. Like, they don't care. Like,
yeah.
I said, like, oh, everybody's playing carefully through Platform Pearls. Apparently, Ghost Death did not get the memo, and it's just, like, going full ham, not waiting for anything there. So, they will, like, make probably a nice, like, minute and a half lead on DKC after seeing what we're seeing on Ziguigui's Quick Confinement screens. And that probably means about... like 10 points for Ghost Death right off the bat, which is pretty nice, you know, getting confidence up. Ghost Death lost Diddy, so they have to play slowly here. Right at the end of the level, you don't want to get a Kremlin bunking you back to the abyss, and they're done, so very nice. And Ziguigui finally got their high jump. They went with some trouble setting it up, but apparently on the second or third try, it did the trick.
Yeah, that's you know, we talk about how these jumps over the levels are safer, and then learning the level and all that. There is still they're still pretty finicky to do.
Yeah.
It's not free to you don't just hold the jump button and you're done. There is some pretty specific setups that need to be done. Sometimes there's multiple steps. They're kind of unintuitive. You know, if you don't have both Kongs, you need to get a Kong and then leave and come back with both Kongs because you probably need the barrel that you got the Kong out of and like stuff like that. So there is some pretty precise precision to actually activate the super jump without you know, pressing the jump button too early and canceling the glitch and all that. So it does take some work. It's not free. Ziguigui had some trouble and does get it. Not going to be wasn't the first player to have trouble with one of those jumps in this race even, and it's probably not going to be the last. Ghost Death done with Neki, moving on to the final boss fight, Gangplank Galleon. Ziguigui Platform Perils pretty firmly in second place. Quick,
they just died, sadly. They have 2 lives left. I'm it's 3, my bad. I'm a bit scared now for the Ziguigui because they are losing a lot of time, and Quick is actually pretty close to catching up with them. Ziguigui dying again there. This is getting scary for them. They have to beat the game. That's totally mandatory. And Axolo already, we've seen a game over screen, which is pretty unfortunate. I'd rather not see another one, please. But Ghost Death is just like not stopping. We've seen very few deaths on Gangplank Galleon, so I'm not too scared, but every time I say that, you know, commentary curse, all that jazz, so, you know, just like they have to stay focused on the level. As you can see, the PBs of the players, Fireman announced it, they were rusty, so they are way far behind their PB, and Ghost Death, like everybody else, got some issues, especially at the start of the game, probably like just, you know, the time to get a feel for the game, just getting into the swing of things, and it's going to be about 4 to 5 minutes behind PB.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at points of about 150 points or so for Ghost Death, and you remember, this is just the 4 people we've got streamed. There are other players competing today. I can't remember the number that you said. 17, I want to say.
13?
13. I knew it was an odd numbered, and so we've seen some mistakes. Ghost Death's run pretty solid overall, but even he had some mistakes, and we've seen plenty more from some of these other players. So we do see a second game over screen sailing to Mars and Exodo, both not going so well. But we are seeing another Gangplank Galleon down there from MC and Ailstrom going as well. And Zof, a very important name here, 4th place on the leaderboard, one of the favorites perhaps, despite coming back from a break. It's hard to say, but we're not going to really know where Zof is at for a little bit due to the stream troubles. So we could see some players be finishing pretty close to each other on stream, and then maybe Zof crushes them all off stream. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait. But for now, Ghost Death is going to finish in 1st place on stream, like we said, and is probably going to be happy to just get a solid DKC run to open up the September tournament here.
MC, we've seen like briefly, we're on the fake credits at the end of Gangplank Galleon. So the MC 166 is an interesting player. They're very solid on a lot of games, but Spectrable and Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight, they don't have a time yet, a PB at 130, which means they did not really practice the game, probably did not like the game or did not have the time, but on everything else they're pretty good. So they today no Shovel Knight, so they have a pretty good shot at getting nice rank, and they started with a nice DKC, so it's just boding well for them. Whereas Zigwigwi, with one of his last lives, just has to carefully play through Gangplank Galleon. Lost DD already, so have to be super careful.
He's got this. It'll be fine. Kerpikpik in platform perils as well is got both Kongs happily going for some of these extra barrels to make sure things are nice and safe as he gets to the exit, and is going to be very happy to do so. We've got Ailstrom on stream in the bottom left, had a bit of a scary moment, but is able to recover.
Okay, there once again, the players still know how to play through DKC. They put a lot of time and practice through the game, so it's still it's scary. It is a tough game to beat. It is unforgiving. The checkpoints are scarce, and just losing a Kong is super scary. Usually you're just used to play through the levels with DD, and you really want DD to be there to help you beat the levels. So they're doing a nice job here, slowly killing all the Kremlins with using the barrels. Not going for the world there, just waiting, and the G. And the G letter is one of the things I like to see in DKC, because it indicates that you're very close to the end. So very nicely done. They will enter the Neki refight there, while Fireman and Kerpikpik are fighting King Carol, and Zigwigwi just done. Couple of minutes behind Ghost Death, is going still to be happy to have beaten the game. They went with a lot of troubles with the later part of the stages. Poison Bond especially probably took a big toll on them, because losing on guard there clearly threw them off.
Yeah, that is a thing I think most players are not going to be ready for. It's pretty rare that I'm not going to say it's rare that you do get hit with on guard. Players seem to abuse the ability to get him back, but it's pretty rare that you can't get him back. He was just gone. He just took an angle and bounced off the ceiling, and he was not to be found. And that was pretty early in the level too.
Yep.
If it's towards the end, players will often do that awkward diddy doggy paddle to the exit and be totally fine. But there was a lot of swing left to do in that level, so got away from Zigwigwi a little bit there, as well as the super jump and loopy lights was the other thing that really got him. But is going to be finishing in 46 minutes or so, losing about 25, maybe 30 points to Ghost Death is not the way you want to open up game one. but is going to be picking up time over Big Threat and Fireman and Caprique and maybe some others as well. We'll have to see when we take a look at the leaderboard. For now, we got more Gangplank Galleon going on. Fireman is done. Astrom is in here. Caprique is past the credits. Just needs 2 more hits.
It's okay for them. They have both gangs. King Carol's almost dead. Should not be an issue. But still, you can see the runners take their time. Jumping on that head, dodging the crown. You can like try to be super aggressive there and just jump on the first frame where King Carol is vulnerable, which is you have like a couple of frames where the crown is still on his head and you can hit them. But you really don't want to go for that, like ever in a race. It doesn't save too much. But yeah, Zigwigwe in chat, not like this for Poison Pound, totally understandable. But everybody lost a couple of minutes here and there due to stupid mistakes, which is like fairly understandable for DKC. We've stated right off the bat that it was one of the harder game of the UD. Next up, Trials 2, Metal Slug, and Spectral Ball. 3 very different and weird games, especially like in speedrunning, and it should be, you know, a nice pace for them. I like 15 minutes long games in the UDs because they're short enough for you to recover like pretty much any mistake, and you know, it's just nice levels, nice games, and but still you have to be super fast and quick switching between games, because with 6 seconds per point you can lose a lot of lead very fast.
Yeah, this is the way the UD works. You set a time in a race, and the time is worth a certain number of points on a scale. And so the purpose of this, if you're a new watcher, even though we're quite far into the tournament now, is it lets the games be weighted evenly. So you know, if you lose 35 seconds in Donkey Kong Country, that's very different than losing 35 seconds in something like Spectre Ball, right? So those 35 seconds are weighted appropriately per the game, and we can take a look at the leaderboard now, and it looks like I'm not sure what happened to Zoph. I hope he's okay. I hope it wasn't not just a stream thing and not like a whole computer thing or what, but I'm not seeing a time for Zoph, and that makes me worried. But I am seeing times for Ghost Death and MC, like we saw. We're both very close around that 150 point mark. 20 points back is Zigwigwe and Fireman, and then a bit of a jump there as well between Caprique and Astrom, who were our only 6 players to finish, and that's pretty surprising.
Yeah, I'm actually amazed. Maybe we have like some slight delay for the time submission from LF, Zof, Sablier, which are like 3 big names, and once again, it would be totally understandable if a runner were rusty on DKC, but since we are qualifying top 8, that means pretty much all the runners who finished DKC are had a nice head start to be there next week. And if you did not beat the game, it doesn't matter. It's going to be played on the next upcoming 4 games, so it's going to be interesting. Obviously, you still need to beat all the other 4 games on time if you do not want to come back to the pool of the players who did not beat DKC. But it is one of the lowest performance for DKC. Usually players, even with a lot of deaths or issues, manage to beat the game on time, so I'm a bit surprised. It is a long and hard game. You have to get rid of the rust before starting to play, so maybe did not go that well for all the players.
We saw the pre-roll for Trials there. I feel like there's a similarity here with Trials compared to DKC, in that there's a you kind of get into a flow of things with. I mean, it's kind of true of all speedruns to some degree, but especially with these 2 games, and especially because there's not a lot of precision. I mean, there's definitely pixels in Donkey Kong Country, but like the the way that the ground textures don't line up exactly with the hitboxes, and the sprites are very big, and hitboxes can't line up with all the different crazy sprites that they have. So it is a game that I think requires a lot of feel and not a lot of looking for precise visual cues and pressing inputs here and there. So in that sense, Trials shares that in common. Trials especially is a game that requires constant little adjustments by the players to everything that happens. You're never going to take the same jump exactly the same each time and land afterwards exactly the same each time, and how you land and how you jump needs to be accounted for. You need to get your back tire down as soon as possible to start accelerating again. You need to make sure that you don't land causes your bike to bounce at all, because again, you're just stuck hanging in the air whenever that happens. And you can even get into there's large bounces, of course, but even tiny little bounces can start to add up. But these are the kind of micro optimizations that I think a lot of players aren't worried about in this game. I think similar to super jumping over levels in Donkey Kong Country, players are going to be looking mostly to just have a consistent run with as few restarts from checkpoints as possible.
It is an impossible game, I'd say, to learn all the harder strats. All the players are just aiming for safely beat the level without dying too much, and that's already fast enough, so you're actually very competitive speedrunning wise. So the race is going to start. We are going to play through the easy and medium difficulty tracks. Trials 2 is an older iteration of the game, so it's actually way harder than the newer version, like Trials Evolution and Fusion. So it is already a very good challenge, but the switch between like the easy and the medium tracks is actually like a big step in difficulty. So the runners will have a nice and gentle start, even though A-Storm apparently is having trouble getting his feeling for the game back, apparently. But saying the Moscow with quick LF apparently having no problem getting into the game. And at the start, you're just gently hopping, using nice platform and ramps to get past the jumps. You do not have to go bunny hopping too much. If you've never played the game, it's a weird one. It's all about balance, and you just like, you can brake, you can accelerate, and you can adjust the position of your biker on the motorcycle, and that's pretty much it. It's all about gently and precisely getting a balance for how much you want to accelerate, how much you have to lean forward or backward to get the correct weight distribution, so the jumps just gets there nicely, and so you land nicely, trying to get your back tire to land as soon as possible, because that's where your torque is coming from. You are not getting any movement from your front tire, so it's just like a free will. So you have to deal with all those information, and it's just like a nice amped up version of Excite Bike on the NES, which I played very recently, and it's way better to play Trials, let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, for one, you don't have the like for most of the. I mean, it has its own motor sound, but it's a little more pleasant to listen to. And I agree, it is a ton of fun just to play this game. And it's fun even when you're just banging your head against some jump that seems totally impossible when you first approach it. A lot of the jumps these players are just sailing over will seem weirdly impossible when you first play this game, just because it is so hard to control. It is so weird. There's nothing really that quite plays like this style of game. It's almost like its own genre, this bike tilty genre that started, I think, with Elastomania way back in the freeware days, but it's come a long way. Trials Fusion is pretty popular. People like it, and so I'm glad that we've got it in the UD, regardless of how the players feel about it. I'm not sure how everyone feels about having to play this game. It's definitely a lot of certain players take to it very well. It's one of their strengths. It's Skunkov has been competing in a lot of tournaments, and it's usually the game where he excels over pretty much everyone else. These days, I think Devil Tifa and maybe a couple others could maybe give him a go, but it's definitely a game that he's become attached to, at least in a way. And then there are some people who just really have struggled with it, and I'm not surprised, just given the unique nature of the game.
So Ice Storm and San Andreas are both on Bumpy Road, and I think LF and Quick are both on the Real Fantasy, so level 6 and 7 out of the 19 we are playing through. Very close between all those players so far. LF is had a difficult start, but got nicely into the swing of things. Got a couple of nasty hits. You die pretty easily on trials. As soon as your head hits pretty much anything, you just instantly die. And obviously, if you land incorrectly, you will also have difficulties. But this is one of the funniest level of the category. The ups and downs here on LF screen with all those different roads and all those big jumps you can make. Sadly, going the incorrect route there and bumping and then dying on that small piece of metal there. So they're going to be caught up by Quick on those nice loops. Like, it's a very, very visual game. You can have a good feel of what's happening. But all those players very close to each other, trading places. You can see Quick on in LF pretty much on the same ramps there.
Eastrum as well made the same mistake that we saw from LF, in that you get caught trying to, do I go the high road or the low road? And I'm not sure, and I went in the middle, and there is no middle road. There's just a platform that will jut out and attempt to decapitate your rider. And yeah, I don't know if the low road or the high road is the faster road in most of these situations in Where's the Ground. I've seen players do all kinds of different things, and it all seems to be about the same. You need more speed to get up to the higher places, but that usually means there's more hang time as well, so I feel like it all kind of comes out in the wash. I'm sure there is a solid answer, and I bet it's not too big a difference at all, so the players generally don't worry about it. But you do want to have a route, because if you do start to just guess and fudge, you do end up with these situations like we saw where the players end up on neither road and back to the checkpoint.
Yeah, it's not about like going the absolute fastest, because it would make like frames of difference, to be honest. Like trials, it's very close. I feel like any like mechanical game, like car or motorcycle or anything, you have like a cap speed, like just depending on your vehicle. And if you go at the fastest speed all the time, you will just like, it's all due to small turns and small jumps and very tiny optimization. So the time difference is very small between like the best route and just your route. And since we are doing like 19 tracks in a row and you will eventually die at some point, it's even harder than the back dashes in Eye of Sorrow. In Eye of Sorrow, you have like one back dash failed will cost you like 10 success. In trials, one death will cost you like hundreds of optimizations. So you'd rather like try to go safely and just like stabilize your bike and go nicely, rather than trying to go the absolute fastest but taking insane risks.
Players have taken different approaches to this level that LF is on. I think it's easy peasy, but the last few levels in and the first few levels and in the easy tracks all kind of blend together. I definitely recognize too many tires from
This
LF.
is the start of the medium track, so too many tires. Let's start with way too many tires, and now it all gets harder, and you can see LF directly struggling with a jump that seems absolutely impossible, except if you manage to get the correct speed, which means like getting your back tire to stick on the ground as much as you can, and all those jumps here starts to get super tricky, and that's a few tricks you don't see at all on easy difficulty, and here it's actually way harder than it looks. But Quick is making a very convincing run here, being one entire track ahead of LF and Ice Storm, and Sam DeMoss being just a little bit behind. It's going to be pretty tough and pretty close between those players.
Yeah, it's been a while since we haven't had a skunk off competing in this game to watch and set the pace. Though, usually when we drop back and focus on the players in the bubble facing the cutoff, skunk offs usually not there. But when we get to the top 4, we get to watch them. But not the case today. We've got some other players who have had a couple deaths and have taken some safer routes. Quick scared me a little bit there, getting the tire hung up a little bit on that upper platform, but was able to recover from that situation. I mean, there's not too much you can do. Sometimes you when you get to in the air, your angle and your speed are largely set, and you're at the mercy of what you just did a second or two ago. But regardless, it worked out. It's going to be holding on to this lead of most of a track here, getting over some tricky pipes as Astrom gets hung up on the first jump of this big jump here, and is going with a flip over it. There's a couple cases where you can add in a flip, and
Sam DeMoss, just like as you said, you can add flips. Just flip like 2 or 3 times, like not intentionally.
It can be a good strat for, if your tire's going to get caught up on something, you flip such that the tire doesn't get caught up on it, and that's flips also introduce energy to your it kind of breaks physics to do it. So it's that extra speed from these flips can be converted into forward speed if you hit with your tires in just such a way. Very hard to do that. If someone flips, generally that's not why they're flipping. They're either trying to avoid getting their tire caught up on something, or they're out of control. And this is something that can happen sometimes. And very often, even if you do flip to try to avoid a bad situation, it will put you in a bad situation afterwards because you're not sure exactly how to recover from this flipping bike. And so sometimes you'll hit a checkpoint, it doesn't matter, you can reset, and sometimes you don't, and that can be pretty costly as well.
Quick on one of the harder, maybe the single hardest part of the entire selection of tracks here. On Pipe Dream, you have those weird pipes with a slight angle, like a slight bevel on the edge, and you have to get those jumps, but those small bumps will get you hung incorrectly. And those jumps here look super easy, but do remember, you cannot jump at all, so it's all about like accelerating, going forward, and just leaning backwards so your front tires goes up just a little bit, and then gently hopping. They went pretty nicely, and that was not easy at all. So they're like getting their first place out of those 4 very comfortably now. Just not stopping, not dying too much, and they're almost done with the game as they go through into I Want Squirrels, the medium 6 out of, and the last one is medium 8.
Sailing to Mars in Boulder Dash. I think this is one of the, like, there's a big increase between using medium, and I think even within medium, Boulder Dash is a pretty big increase in difficulty over some of the other levels. It does have some of these pipes in addition to the boulders early on. Even just the first jump is not always an easy thing to do. Sailing to Mars, getting it there, is chasing LF across these horrible pipes. Astrom in Pipe Dreams, and players pretty close, but Kerpekwik is certainly running away with it here. To the untrained eye, it might appear like Kerpekwik is going pretty slow over a lot of these obstacles, is getting caught up on a lot of things, and is hesitating in a lot of space, a lot of places, but is generally just making steady forward progress all the time. Is not dying at all, and this is what will really get you will get you ahead in a race of trials.
Yeah, they almost did not die, and they are just first place entering the final level. A-Storm is right behind them, and LF and Silent Mars entering I Want Squirrels there. So it's very close. Actually, LF finishing and getting into Under Construction with A-Storm there. Under Construction is a nice one because it's all about like weird elements put together with no like meaningful way. Like it's all like different planks and cylinders and stuff put together, and that just you have to cross, and it's all a mess. And like it's trials get from okay, those are relatively understandable elements to there's a flying platform there, just get to it. We are entering that kind of design patterns, and if you ever want to play Trials 2 and get into the hard tracks, just stream it, because I've never seen actually anyone beat live all the harder tracks. Like, no one in the UD made it so far. I know they got all stuck on the final or second to last one because they're just like super hard, and it's cool to be able to go through the easy and medium difficulty relatively fast, but like it doesn't show what all the Trials game have to offer, obviously.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that the players aren't doing just because they don't have to do, and because it's very hard to do. But the game, there are some levels in some games, in some iterations of Trials, where they demand the player do these things, really precise. It's just things like bunny hopping is not the easiest thing to do, and even when you know how to do it, doing it in a controlled manner can be pretty difficult. You're pretty almost managing to land on a weird front tile stall, and then overcorrecting second time around, and then the Goldilocks third time is the charm. Getting started on the final level here, the final exam. It is the longest level. Well, I don't know, Where's the Ground is pretty long, but is a very long level, and serves as a fitting final challenge for our goal here for UD. Currently, no one on stream can really challenge Kerpekwik for this first spot here. The other players, however, are fairly evenly matched with each other. It's going to be a fun finish between LF, A-Storm, and Salient Mars.
Kerpekwik's BB is a 1538, so they're not too far behind. Actually, they got like a very nice controlled run, not dying too much, making progress constantly, and that's like just the way you want the run to go. So LF apparently a bit rusty as well. They had very good tourneys on July and August, and apparently here they're just not like into the groove of things quite yet. I hope it's going to get better, but A-Storm just passed them, and Silent Mars and LF on the exact same platform. Actually, they have a slightly different camera angle, so it might be hard to tell, but those are exactly the same checkpoint for both players. Kerpekwik is just done. A-Storm is starting with those weird flips here, where you have to use the ceiling to get your tire correctly positioned, and those are the final few jumps where there are missing planks there just to screw with you. Oh, and that final jump is kind of crazy. You have actually to flip over the barrels, or your wheels will clip.
Yeah, there's you could do some fun stuff here, but A-Storm is looking to just kind of hit it with the back tire and flip and pray, basically, and is not praying hard enough, apparently, because this is about the 6th or 7th time they've had to restart from this checkpoint. Salient Mars is now starting the final level. LF is on their way, and A-Storm's got a pretty big lead over them. This is definitely in his head a little bit, at least at this point.
Yeah.
I needed to clip the barrel with the back tire.
There we
in order
go.
to, there,
Okay.
exactly. That's exactly what he needed last time, able to
Nice.
get that going on the next time and finish. So that is a second place on stream finish for Astrom. We'll take a look at the leaderboard in a little bit to see the full story. Stanley DeMars is still on this first dump and doing something insane to recover. Very nice job. That's, you know, if you're going to do something, why not? You want to do it in style.
As long as you hit the checkpoint, you just have to be sure to get there before the games say stops you. But there's a lot of ways to just barely get a checkpoint and then immediately hit restart to get back on the real wheels. Trials 2 has that annoying feature that when you restart, you are like a few inches off ground. So if you press backward, like just to lean backward, you will just immediately flip, and it's super annoying. Like, why not put your wheels directly on the ground? You have to wait like a few, it's not long, it's maybe like 5 frames for your bike to touch the ground, but you have to know that you know, have to wait, you have to get used to it, and it can get infuriating at the start. But LF is almost done, is on those barrels that got Storm stuck a little bit. Get a nice flip here above the final tire and finish the category in style. Sam DeMoss is almost done as well, and the MC is about like halfway through the level, so it is a close finish between all those runners, but the clock is not stopping, already 19 minutes into the run. The runners have 21 minutes to beat the game.
Stanley DeMars was quite close with LF for a long period of time, but the start of this level really caught up to Stanley DeMars. And also having a bit of trouble here with this sequence. There's no checkpoint in between these 3 jumps here, so they do need to be made in sequence. Doesn't get a really nice landing there, so once you kind of control the bike from that situation, it's pretty easy to keep going. And more flips from Stanley DeMars. Not sure how much control there is behind these flips. Maybe not control, but intention. And it seems like it's another flip and pray sort of situation. What happened? Did the back tire just come off there? That was pretty crazy.
You can if you hit too hard your back tire, you can break your suspension, and your back wheel will just do like whatever it pleases. So you have to be actually gentle with it. Oh, you can recover from just landing your back tire, but it is actually super hard. But yeah, finally making it. They have to beat the level. This is the final jump. They have the time to make it, and nicely hopping above that tire. MC is in a tough spot because they have about 30 seconds to beat those 2 jumps, but gets the jump here first try, no problem, and gets there right on time. They beat DKC under the cutoff, and they barely made it for Trials 2 because the cutoff is actually right now.
That was a surprisingly awesome finish from MC. I saw this a couple times. We subbed him in pretty late in the bottom right corner there, and I noticed he was doing a lot of bunny hops off of jumps, which is something that most players don't do because they're pretty hard. But it's basically the idea of, it's kind of like an ollie on a skateboard. You lean back and then pull forward, and in that motion, the bike kind of springs off of the back tire forwards a little bit. And so if you do that off of jumps, sequences like the double barrel sequence, where most players were almost kind of forced to flip off of them, throwing in that bunny hop will get you just a little bit more height that you need. And MC's pretty good at it. He's doing it in situations where maybe he shouldn't have, I'm not sure, but was doing it on a lot of jumps. It served him very well at the end. Able to just soar over those barrels and the tires at the end to finish with, with some stream delay, it looked like maybe it wasn't as close as it appeared, but 2017 going to be the time for MC. Going to drop back compared to some of these other times, like Ziguigui's 15:39, getting underneath that 16-minute mark is the 200-point mark for Trials. But we've seen a bit of a shake-up here. We've seen finishes from Exodo and Ayash, and I can't help but notice that Zof still doesn't have a time. I feel like something bad happened to Zof.
I just asked on the Discord if everything is okay with them, because like I can understand totally a runner being under practice, but I'm kind of surprised, and like no time on both games. Like it is super hard, like to be fair, or during the UD6 to beat the cutoffs. If you are unpracticed, it's not going to work for you. But yeah, still very surprised. But the story repeats itself a little bit, because LF is very used to like the 9th place, just right under there, and having to work his way into the top 8. A-Storm, MC, Quick Fireman, Zigwigwe, and Ghostdeath are going to sit comfortably on the top of the leaderboard here, being the only ones that got the game on time. Next up is Metal Slug. Metal Slug is an interesting one because it kind of looks super... It's very forgiving. You have infinite credits. You can just die and instantly pop back where you were. Like you never stop. It's filled with action. But actually in speedrun, it's all about resource management, and dying actually costs you not time but resources that will lead to time loss eventually later down the level. So it's a very cool speedrun, but due to timing inconsistencies, the cutoff was at 16 minutes previously, and it's better for the runner. It's fairer to put it at 17 minutes, so the scores reflect better their actual level on the game. So they have a little bit more time, which is fairly nice. They should all be under 15 minutes, which is what we usually observe. So it's not going to make much of a difference, but it's going to be better for the global mood, I'd say.
Yeah, these points were set, as the games were announced, and indeed even before the season started. So before players get their hands on it, before you get an idea for what the speedrun is really like, and what is it like to speedrun this game with a very limited amount of time, and so there's the admins of the UD do their best to find the point ranges that make the most sense for each game, and it was pretty good, honestly, on most games, but it became clear that it would probably be better to make an adjustment here on Metal Slug and Shovel Knight as well. So as long as everyone is competing under the same shifted numbers, then it will absolutely make no difference. It will just make everyone feel better with 10 more points or whatever under their belt, and it will be great to see how Metal Slug shakes out. There's about with a couple people finishing with a double no-show for the first 2 games. That's kind of probably going to sign the nail in the coffin, I guess. But I don't know. Maybe something goes bad for someone else, and someone shows up to play these last 3 games, but it seems like we have about 10 players who are really in it today, and we're going to narrow it down to 8. So that's the odds much better that you will live to see another day in this turn of the tournament compared to some of the others, and thinking forward to grand finals and things. So there's not going to be too many people eliminated, which I know you'll like, Twin. You don't like to, you like to see everyone win.
Yeah, everybody needs to win. Like, obviously, to be honest, I understand. I actually set the rules, so I know we have to get some players out of there. Sadly, they're all like doing their best and doing fantastic, and when you just said it got like a bit easier, but when there are only like 2 players that get off the tourney, if there are 10 still competing, it's going to be even harder for them, because that means they had their best shot there. It was the easiest to get there and barely did not make it. So it's going to be pretty intense between Ayash, Exodo, LF, and Silent Demars. I think it's going to be where the action resides, because all 4 of them did not beat DKC on time, and now they're pretty evenly matched on the next upcoming 3 games, so it's going to be pretty interesting.
We've got our players poised to start here on Metal Slug, except Ziguigui's got a gray screen, but is probably poised to start as soon as the stream kicks in. And look at the beautiful synchronization between most of these other runners. Ghost Death trailing a little bit, but sitting, at the top of the leaderboard, is going to be totally fine with this. Well, he's actually starting with the other players. It just appears that he's not, so don't worry about it. He's not worried about it. He's doing fine.
Never stop.
First level of Metal Slug. Yeah, never stop in the first level of Metal Slug. Lots of jumping. This is, it's faster when you jump for some reason. It's quite a bit faster, surprisingly faster. And a little bit risky though. Your hitbox changes, you don't get a lot of air control, so if there's a bullet or something, you're probably going to eat it. And it is a one-hit kill sort of situation in this game, so it is quite risky, but there's not too much risk in this first level, so I think we're going to see players tackle it pretty aggressively. And we did, because it's already over.
LF and Zandomos got a fantastic start. Storm and Axoto got a harder time with the helicopter at the start of the level. They don't have enough bombs. Storm is struggling to kill the boss. We see way more phases than we are used to, but it's finally done. But LF is having a nice lead there, getting to that screen that gets stuck. You have to kill those 13 enemies that fly and try to kill you, but as long as you're careful with the bottom left corner, you will not die. Going slowly, not doing too many jumps here. LF is playing carefully, using his resources accordingly, and yeah, everybody dies. Everything dies pretty quickly in Metal Slug, as long as you have the weapon and the bombs necessary. If you start shooting with your base weapon, it's going to be way slower.
Yeah, it is. It is a totally different experience playing this game well, the way a speedrunner tends to play it, and playing this game for the first time, or just poorly, like I tend to play, regardless of how long I practice this game. The difference between these weapons and the pea shooter is just phenomenal. The amount of time that you just spend sinking shots. It feels like, it feels like the game is poorly balanced when you just have the pea shooter. You're like, these guys have way too much health. This is not fun. It's bullet sponges. And then you come into the same situation with a shotgun and just like 2 shots, bam, it's done. Super important to keep these weapons, and you will lose them if you die. You get 10 bombs, so if you were out of bombs, you actually get more resources, but sometimes you pick up extra bombs, and if you were to die before you use those extra bombs, then you will get reset back to 10. Very important to not die at the wrong time. Certainly most deaths are at the wrong time, but some are more wrong than others.
Salian just died there, and it's not too bad. They just lost the shotgun, but there are 20 upcoming bombs, so they should be pretty nicely set for the boss. LF, as you can see, still has the shotgun shells, so they will make quick work of the boss here, and they're on their way. The shotgun deals 20 times the damage of the base weapon. No games ever, I can recall, have such a high difference between just the base weapon and another one. Like if you in any RPG, if you just enter a room and drop a weapon that deals 20 times your current damage, you'd be psyched. It's insane, and that's why it's totally necessary to have exactly the correct weapons and the correct loadout entering a boss fight. You are not that much stuck in Metal Slug 1. You usually just can go, and the few small sections where you have to kill everything actually goes quite fast. There are a lot of skips because the game does not check all the time if there are enemies on screen, or if there are still enemies popping on top of you, so you can just kill everybody in one go, and the game will say, okay, let's go. So upcoming right after that fight on the LF screen, we have one of those skips, and it's one of the most inconsistent one, but also one of the one that saves the most time. So we'll see if they can get that. The fight, you just go with the knife. The knife deals 3 times your damage of a bullet. This is the strongest knife in history as well. So here you can just get a nice skip, and they got it. Wow, So you can see the screen slightly tilted forward, and that means they just can go. Nope. Okay, I'm not sure. I think they got it. It's confusing. Middle Slug is too intense. Like there are way too many things on screen at once.
Yeah, it is. It is a very busy game. It can be very hard to keep track of what you need to. Even in a speedrun, you know, you've done it before in a speedrun, so it's not like you're overwhelmed at everything going on for the first time. But still, it's just so hard to keep track of everything that's going on. That a stray bullet or whatever will catch you off guard, and that's all it takes. Exodo now also into this mini boss fight, gets knifed. The knife hitbox is very big on your knife, and not as big on his knife. It was big enough to catch Exodo there out of his sort of cheese, jumping over the knife hitbox over and over. LF into the boss fight now is not really. Yeah, there we go. Finally finishing him off, just barely. On the left side of the screen, Saline Damar's destroying the building and is a little ahead of Exodo, and Astrom, been struggling a little bit, is now starting the mini boss fight, so is about a minute behind LF or so. That's kind of the spread between first and last right now.
They just died. Not having the cleanest fight. Storm has 2 minutes slowest PB compared to LF, so it's understandable. LF is a little bit ahead, and they're making very good progress here. Oh, taking an unfortunate death here with 20 bombs. It's not too bad. Level 4 is super short. You have a lot of resources scattered everywhere, so they should be fine. You don't even stop for that prisoner there. You just like go immediately destroy your slug. Destroying the slug deals an insane amount of damage, so you want to use that wisely. And with the shotgun and 15 bombs, the boss should melt quite fast. 1 extra bomb here, and 10 extra bombs here, and here we go.
The bombs don't have a lot of range, but they will kind of bounce and skid a little bit, so able to throw them pretty early to get that boss fight started just a little bit sooner. LF finishing off that boss, like you said, with no problems with the resources that he had available. Saline Damar's shooting through the mansion here in level 4 as LF starts level 5. Exodo just now done with level 3. Was pretty close with Saline Damar's, but has dropped back a fair bit here towards the end of that of stage 3, having a bit of trouble with the boss fight. Astrom getting ready to start said boss fight in just a bit, but actually dies and is in a bit of a resource crunch here. This is going to be a very long boss fight.
Yeah, they don't have the slug, they don't have so many bombs. We could see the boss get melted, like literally, when you have like the 28 or 25 bombs you can gather with the slug. At that point you just can throw everything pretty much in 10 seconds and get the best DPS ever in any Metal Slug series, but here is going to be super slow. The rocket launchers you eventually get is pretty nice, but still it's not doing much, so Storm is going to lose about a minute, I'd say, on that boss fight.
Right, that is like, he died once. He touched a guy once and lost a minute in a game where a minute costs you 20 points in the UD. It's a pretty mean for such a small mistake, but that's just the way it goes times in this game. Done everything he needs to defeat the boss, is just waiting for the boss to realize that it is in fact actually good, and there it goes. So he is now done with 5, as Exodo is just starting. Saline Damar's has died here, so it is cars here to recover. I think it should be okay.
level 5 is not too bad as long as you have the resources to break those doors here. Since the boss dies so slowly, you just don't need much. You can die during the boss fight and it doesn't cost you any time. You just recover your bombs, so it's going to be pretty nice for selling the malls. Axodo though is catching up a little bit. If you keep on moving and keep on jumping, you actually go so much faster than just like hesitating a little bit. It matters a lot. Sandra Moss on the boss fight, almost done, just dies on purpose there probably. And Aleph is on the bridge part here, the most crowded and intense part of the run, because you have a lot of things at once on screen. You have a lot of bullets to dodge, and you have like those two levels. You have the upper deck and the lower deck, where depending on where you scroll the screen and where you stand, you will have different enemies on the bridge, and it's super intense to learn. It's very nice when you execute everything perfectly, because you dodge everything like I don't know. It feels like you're Jedi or something, and it's super rewarding. But as soon as you are like a few pixels out of position, you will just get sniped, so it can be super frustrating. I'm not sure they have the shotgun on board there. They scrolled the screen incorrectly, and
we'll find out.
Yep, nope, and they will not have it. Oh, they have one right now actually, so maybe that's going to be enough for them. Oh, and they have a second one. Very nice. Okay, so they have actually everything they need. Very nice routing from LF. Dying with the shotgun immediately, sadly. They will probably try to catch the heavy machine gun instead of the shotgun here, because the idea would be to keep the shotgun for the boss fight.
Yeah, this final boss fight is a just laborious procedure if you do not have the resources to deal with it. We've been talking again and again about managing these resources, and it's not made more clear anywhere than in the final boss fight. Just a ton of health, or maybe not too much more health than a lot of other bosses, but it's just a very hard boss to hit. You know, there's no place you can stand to just dump into the boss for very long. He will force you to move. He will give you patterns where you can't be hit at all and just swing across the top of the screen. It can be very hard to deal with. LF actually gets the slug here, so this can be pretty helpful for the situation. It is lagging. The slug is made up of a lot of sprites. He is trading some speed for safety here, but I like it. This is a pretty nice trade-off, I think.
You can have so much out of the slug. They have currently 39 bombs. You can chug them super fast with the slug. Plus, you can destroy the slug onto the boss if you have the correct pattern. It protects you because it gives you like 3 extra HP. It's just like super good. I'm not convinced by taking the grenades here as cannon shells instead of hand grenades, but it's okay. They're using shells to clean the screen. They have a ton of resources. Right now they have enough of an arsenal to probably like kill 2 of the bosses. If there were like 20 shotgun shells is like 52 hand grenades, and they have about like 50 hand grenades, so they have like a lot of damage potential. The issue here is that it's not clear they will not die against the boss, so they have to have the rhythm of mashing those bombs spot on, so it destroys the bullets that the bosses launch right on time. And they're doing a great job here, having a nice pattern from the boss as well. Going full ham, they should not leave the slug to throw those grenades. Realizes that now, loses missing like 4, committing suicide with the slug a bit too early. 28 bombs, dodging those bullets. This is insane. Having a bad pattern here, sadly. Clearing those bombs with the shotgun. 28 bombs. They need the boss to do something nice for them.
This is not it. This is not nice. This is so you can come in here with the resources. Nice. It is very tricky to get in here. 14-21 is going to be the time for LF. You can get into this fight with the resources. That is much easier said than done. Making sure that the prisoner has the correct job. Making sure that you free the prisoner in time, or don't free the prisoner too early. Making sure that if you do, he doesn't leave his thing behind, and then if he does leave it, making sure you don't pick it up early and die. Just getting to the boss fight with the shotgun and the bombs and the slug is very tricky. Most players, I think most players don't even get that far. And then once you get there, we've seen a fair number of players. They're up on that top platform, and the fight starts, and they go bang, 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 and they throw some things, and then the first rocket catches them, and they lose it all. So it is another thing to use the resources properly in the boss fight. LF did a fantastic job of dealing with some of the worst patterns we've seen, and didn't get a chance to even use a lot of those resources, like you said. Zoto also with a pretty good fight, finishing off that and finishing with 15-20 or so, about a minute behind LF, who did a fantastic job. Saline Damar is dying, and that's kind of what you want really when you're in this situation against this boss. You want those 10 more bombs. You just want to throw them, die, throw them, die. At some point, it's maybe faster to finish him off with your pistol, but it's very hard to tell how much health he has left, so you're probably going to see this pattern continue.
Storm is going to have a tough time to finish the game. They have about a minute to beat the boss. Maybe if they can get with those 20 bombs, and they will make it. I'm not sure. Immediately die. That's actually good for them because they will recover 10 bombs from that. But it's going to be a slow and difficult process even just to kill that chopper with the base shooter. They need to get the bombs out. I'm not sure. 10 bombs, like that's base resources. You cannot have less than that entering the boss. So that's going to be a long fight. 30 seconds is not going to be enough for them.
Threw those grenades a little bit too early. The boss very clearly there. It's not like the helicopter isn't there, but the hitbox was not, so lost a couple bombs there. Not the way you want to start out the fight, but is doing a good job of dealing with the boss's movement. Has a couple more bombs. Doesn't want to abandon this position to go up and use them, and does get a favorable pattern. Boss coming down low enough for those grenades to be put to work. And dodging when you don't want to be dodging. Those aren't going to quite connect, and you can tell the boss isn't low health yet, because we were getting that easier pattern. But as the timer ticks past the, I guess the 17-20-ish mark where we were, we can see that it's not going to be enough. Aestrom, it wasn't going to happen, even with a perfect boss fight with just the pea shooter and the 10 bombs. That's not a thing that can happen in that time limit. Made a heroic charge of it at the end, but that is going to do it for Metal Slug. I'm not even sure what the leaderboard's going to look like anymore after that. We'll be very curious to see.
It's going to be interesting. Zigugu apparently having technical issues, not going to be able to beat the game on time, which is super unfortunate. So we'll see. S-Storm was one of those players as well that beat DKC on time, so that will actually Hillslick is going to have a bigger impact that I anticipated, to be honest. I really thought that with the nicer time of the cutoff at 17 minutes, everybody would be like largely able to get there, but apparently Ayash, Storm, and Zigugu, unfortunately, are barely or not able at all to beat the game. And everybody is super close to each other. Ghost and MC got the 14:45, Kelpwick 14:49, LF got a 14:11, that put them nicely on the 6th place. That's exactly what they needed. They needed a good time to get back into the top 8. A-Storm is falling to the 8th place, sadly, with 288, and is super close to Cylinder Mars at 271. So the battle for the 8th place is not even started, I feel.
Yeah, this is, Ayash with the double the 00 on DKC and Metal Slug is not going to be. It's not going to be easy for them to make a charge in these last two games. But you know, there's a lot of other people who are in this top 8 are players who also haven't finished some of these games. So I wouldn't particularly peg Spectra Ball and Aria of Sorrow as you know, dangers of not finishing under the cutoff for these games, but certainly these are games where a lot of points can be gained or lost. So it's not impossible for Ayash is going to keep fighting, whereas Sailing to Mars is right outside the top 8. So it's not over. We've got 10 people basically fighting. Ziguigui, his struggles on Metal Slug were largely tech related, unfortunately. So that is gonna probably mess with you a little bit. You're not gonna feel good about what happens. So it's not gonna put you in a great mental state heading into the next game. But in terms of execution, it's not a reflection of that. So I think Ziguigui is probably gonna be doing okay for Spectra Ball and being one of the names to hold on to that top 8 position. But there are some players who gotta watch out. Sailing to Mars is right outside, and once in, there's only 8 spots. Only 8 people can win today. Even fewer will win next weekend and the weekend after that, and so on. But
Yeah.
for now, this is where we are. We got 4-ish people, 5 who are all right on the cusp.
That's probably where it's the hardest for the players, to be honest. Now they all are thinking, oh, okay, it's maybe easy to get to top 8. But then they are reflecting, okay, even if I get to top 8, I have 5 other games to play next week and get to top 4. And then I will have any way to replay those games to get to top 2 eventually throughout the 10 games in a row. So if I'm doing poorly right now, what does it mean for my performances in 2 weeks? And that's probably hard to deal with. So it is interesting to keep that in mind. It is boding super well for Ghost Death, leading with some nice times on those 3 games, getting apparently frustrated on the chat, so that means they can do even better, which is pretty great for them. And we'll see what's the story is going to be like with Spectra Ball and Eye of Sorrow. But right before, we are going to take a short 10 minutes break, so we are going to be back at it's going to be 1 p.m. and 5, 1 p.m. and 6. It's not going to be super precise, so don't leave for too long. We'll be right back. And we're back for two last games, Spectrable and Aria of Sorrow. It's going to be pretty exciting, pretty intense. Ghost Death and Quick are doing fantastic so far.
Yeah, Ghost Death is number one with a bullet, and there's like a 30-point gap between him and Quick. But Fireman and MC are also very close to Quick. They're all kind of grouped together, and they're looking like they could be maybe our top four for when we get to next weekend. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. We are concerned with narrowing down to a top 8. So Ziguigui, LF, Exodo, and Astrum are going to be currently our 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th place players. But there is Salient Demars just outside by 17 points of this 8th place, and Ayash got some work to do. Needs to make up almost 90 points over the next 2 games in order to crack this top 8. It's doable. It's not easy, but it's doable. So it's not over yet, and these are our 10 players who are going to be competing to get into this top 8. Game number 1, well, it's game number 4, but game number 1 after the break. Coming up next is Spectrable. So this is I thought this was like a pretty way back. I thought this was going to be a pretty safe-ish game. I thought we were going to see, some people will be a little better, people will be a little worse. So it'll be 20, 30 points between best and worst, and that has proven not to be the case. It is a pretty volatile game. There's, one thing goes wrong, and it individually doesn't cost all that much time, but it gets in your head, and you just start resetting it the same thing over and over. And then before you know it, minutes have gone by, and you've got people with the world record posting 15-minute times in this game. It is pretty crazy. It's pretty scary, and it should be a good watch.
It is that weird bowl game that you understand immediately just watching that it doesn't behave like every other platformer. It's and speedrun wise, it's really weird how much time it costs. Doing like a single mistake, any bonk, any incorrect speed will just like send you back to checkpoint. And like if you break it down to small elements, like you said, like a single mistake will not cost you too much time, but they never seem to happen just the one and it goes. Like it's everything dies at one point in that run. It's so weird, and it was put on that selection there to be that free game, that easy game that everybody would get working nicely. And actually it's way more tricky and way harder than it looks, and to get consistent at least, because like some people grinding the game, like after 10 hours just doing like the same 6 to 7 minutes in back and forth, you will get eventually to a super good time. But when you are racing, you have to get to a different mindset, and we've seen that during, like, I'd say after the July tournament, the players realized that you cannot play Spectrable the same way you grind it. You cannot race it going full ham, doing the best strats and hope that it would work, because it doesn't. So everybody defaulted to some safer strat, I'd say, with like some better setups, and just it is weird. LF showcasing the map level editor there. You can just do whatever you like, and it's pretty fun. I hope he's sending a nice message to our Spectrable friends. But the game is weird, it's glitchy, it doesn't quite work the way it should sometimes. You have a double jump that allows you to get some big skips, and we are playing through the all the maps starting from Tropical Isles there, and the first level is not too bad. It's the default configuration. You have some nice double jump, you have a nice bounce on the waterfall there that just sends you up there if you are lucky enough for the ball to nicely being willingful and jump high up there. It's it's not too bad. LF having a nice start. Exodo actually taking that platform we are not used to see, defaulting to a little backup here, and everybody is trying to get their, you know, muscle memory back in ticking, because they just played through DKC, Trials 2 and Metal Slug, and this is very different.
Yeah, they've had that 10-minute break, so they've you know, maybe gone ahead and got a snack or some water or stretched or something, but hopefully a little bit of time was spent towards firing up the game and rolling this thing around and jumping with it and getting into that mindset ready to play Spectra Ball. And it looks like most of them have. That first major obstacle of that waterfall everyone managed to clear, though I did catch, I think it was... no, I was going to say Exodo, he's on stream. It was someone off stream who just barely had to reset, and you know, after the waterfall, and the third checkpoint is before the waterfall, so I had to do it again. But no such fate before these 4 players who are now into the level 2, getting into some pretty big skips now, just jumping straight over to this loop. There's some more stuff going on as we show off our crazy new 4-player at once camera view. Balls spinning in this same position here, setting up for this jump on the pyramid. It looks really tame, just rolling up the corner here that Exodo is doing. You know, you go at it and it gets up to the top, but it's actually very tricky. It's the kind of thing where when you try it yourself, you start to really appreciate the finesse that these players are doing to make this ball go where it needs to. Exodo and LF synchronized finish on level 2, chasing Aestrom and Saline to Mars into level 3 here, the volcanic crater. The big skip that Saline to Mars is showing off, nicely done.
Super well executed from Saline to Mars. They're not stopping from anything, not actually having to restart the checkpoint when they landed there. It's a very, very good start, very solid, and they're playing with the nice green color, and it's bringing them some good result there. Very, very nice and aggressive with that jump on Sony Peaks, keeping their forward momentum, going almost too fast there, and not getting stuck on the fence. And to the checkpoint, the first checkpoint on the Snowy Peaks is very late, so you really don't want to die, and that square corkscrew here can be kind of tricky to navigate. You have, like any ball game, you have a lot of momentum, your ball will keep on rolling, and Spectra Ball is no exception, and you have to have like a lot of control. And being able to jump and actually manipulating the ball itself rather than, you know, doing the weird monkey ball shenanigans is actually gives you a lot of control, but still you have to know exactly what you're doing. Sander Morse is going for the... you have like at least 3 different options there. They're not going for the intended route, but almost, and you know, going through the falling blocks there and having a nice finish in first place. And Storm is going the same way, very close behind, and LF fell a little bit behind Exodo. Exodo actually not getting the gems that they wanted here and falling back to the checkpoint.
There's 2 major stumbling points here on Snowy Peaks, and one was one that I think caught LF near the start. That weird fence that sometimes just eats all your speed, and then this section that Exodo has been on, restarting a couple times here towards the end of the level. Checkpoints pretty far apart here in these 2 sections, so nice recovery there by Exodo and LF. That tricky stage chasing Aestrom and Saline to Mars, who are showing off one of the coolest things. Saline to Mars, got the hard part, but then couldn't convert.
This is the 3rd time they're getting stuck here, having to restart. Aestorm defaulted to the normal route almost. We do not see that ramp so much often. Sander Moss not going for the skip anymore, just going back through and going for the skip here, failing sadly and having to default. Sander Moss having a fantastic start and falling back to 4th place here, almost like Exodo also having issues, but it's LF that is also stuck and restarted. So as we said as an introduction, like everybody is having weird issues with the game at some point. Like San Andreas did not stop for 3 levels, and suddenly they could not beat the game anymore.
Yeah, this hopefully they turn things around. It looks like have started, and once you get going, you know you've got an opportunity to keep going in this game. It seems. I mean, it's literally how the physics work, but also just the way that the players' minds seem to work with this game. I wouldn't have thought it would be a thing. I would think I was making it up, but we've seen it too many times in these races. The way that the same one mistake makes it so that you're far more likely to commit that same mistake on your second and third and fourth try. But here we are.
Exodo, San Andreas went from first to last, and he's back in first place because both A-Storm and Exodo failed after that, and LF is struggling. Like here, he's just defaulting to default base route, going for all the checkpoints, so they're having an easier time. And the sad thing with spectral speedrunning is that you are skipping all the checkpoints. If you're doing correctly, you'd never see a checkpoint, and sometimes you still sadly need them in a race. So it's all about like knowing your limits, like in any platform game, like in Shovel Knight and DKC, we see a lot of decision around the checkpoints. Like usually in DKC, a checkpoint is not too far behind, you will take the time and grab it. In Spectra Ball, the game is so short, it costs actually a lot of time to make that decision. So San Andreas restarting from at the beginning of the stage, Exodo passing them, A-Storm having a nice start of the towering mountain there, going to the TNT barrel section. Exodo in first place so far.
Yeah, it can be a little hard to tell with Towering Mountain. There's a lot of different routes to take, and it seems to change every time I see this game. It's generally players transitioning to something safer and more consistent has been the general trend for this level, this game, maybe even season as a whole. But that's just the way this level goes. Taking a peek at some of the other players racing off streams, Zigwigwi, Ghost Death, Fireman, all doing well in the Towering Mountains. So it is going to be a pretty close finish, regardless of all the mistakes and mishaps we've seen from some of our players, like LF, who has been struggling quite a bit with Spectra Ball, going up and getting plenty of speed to go into this crate section here. A-Storm getting ready to trigger the Rising Pillar here, and does a pretty good job of jumping off the boost pad. You can go a little earlier than he did, but you'd really be pushing it. And again, the safety seems to be the name of the day here in Spectra Ball.
San Andreas really has to work on for his 8th place now. There are about 17 points behind A-Storm, and A-Storm is right in front of them on Spectra Ball. It's too bad for San Andreas because they had a good start, they had the opportunity to catch up, and Towering Mountain did not go so well for them, so they have to work and get back into it. But the Space Construct, the final level that we are heading into right now, is for Exodo, is actually like the most random, idiotic skip in the entire like UD6. You'll see it like pretty soon, and you probably know what I'm referring to. Like the loop skip is just insane. So Exodo is taking his time to set up a nice skip here. We've seen Exodo do that a couple of times already. They're trying to reach the platform upward. They're missing, sadly, having to default to the squiggly line here.
As we take a look at some of the other runners, we can see Kerpweek is done well under the 10-minute mark. Nice job. We also saw Zigwigwi and Ghost Death also on Space Construct. And Exodo, yeah, getting ready for this this ridiculous skip. You'd think after all the crazy things you can do that you've seen the players do in this run, holding left wouldn't be the craziest skip ever, but Apparently, there's something about this loop that refuses to let players get out of it. Exodo, however, defying the odds, first try getting out of the loop, and more importantly, gets this checkpoint here. Didn't like his launch towards the exit. It is a ridiculous launch to get into the exit, and he didn't like his placement, having a bit of trouble with the second time here. And Eastrom's coming, he's catching up. He needs to do this really hard skip, doesn't even get out of the loop. But we'll see how this launch goes. No, Exodo just doesn't like it. Something about it he recognized was not going to work there.
You have to get launched like pretty far, so you cannot really stop, because the final platform is way further and higher than you'd think. So you have to get the correct speed and see, just knowing exactly how to land spot on. Exodo finishing the game in 11 minutes. This is actually super good time. Spectrouble got a lot of players stuck, but apparently today no problem. Ice Storm is going to be done pretty soon. And Sandemos is heading into the loop skip here, but yeah, no problem to touch the end there. Sandemos is a little bit too short, but they will probably make it barely. Oh wow, fell down.
I think didn't
know
want
exactly.
that checkpoint, but they got it.
Yeah, now they have to
improvise time.
That's why you do the games. Blind.
Goes this way,
time.
It doesn't finds a little ledge here and was like, no, I don't think this is the way I want to go. Is gonna hop on this thing, and some of the parts of this construct that I'm seeing here from Sailing to Mars are literally the first time I've seen them. So wouldn't be surprised if it's the same.
The checkpoint.
Yeah,
it should not be too bad, but clearly you'd never want to see those parts. This is the first time we see them in a race, but here now they are at the door right before the checkpoint, so they're good. But doing all that loop on the tower was pretty bad for their final time. But still, it's going to be under like 13 minutes if they nail the ending there, and everybody's already done. Like it's like relied on the difficulty of Spectrouble sometimes.
Yeah, it's going to be a little more than the 20 points that I said was what we thought it was going to be right at the start of the season. But it is going to be much closer than we've seen in the past from this game. It is very volatile, and the players did really well overall. We were focusing a lot on a lot of mistakes from the players here and there throughout the run. And I guess we were overlooking all the other things that were just going smoothly, which you can take for granted in this game. It's very easy for things to not go smoothly, especially Exodo, like, just breezed through the space construct. Obviously the big loop is a problem, but there's a lot of stuff leading up to the loop that can be a problem, especially like the tractor beams on the S-curves and stuff, and it was just no problem for him and most players.
Yeah, I don't understand how they make that, to be honest. The S-curve with the repulsors on that space construct, I have very, maybe I remember incorrectly, but I have a very, very bad memory of that place. You can see still Ayash just finishing here, still having a little bit of time, but struggling with the end of the space construct. And to be honest, you've said that the runners are usually pessimistic by nature due to how speedrunning works, but probably the commander us are a little bit pessimistic as well, because we take a lot of things for granted. In any game, we go oh, they failed that fast strat, and we are not that impressed. Take any Super Metroid commentary or anything, everybody is yep, they're getting their super missile there, they don't care about the Mach Ball or how hard it is to execute everything. And it's the same thing on pretty much any of the UD games. Those are actually hard speedruns, and getting there with all those times you can see on screen right now is not easy at all.
This is over 200 points for Kubrick in a Spectrouble race. Not much more you can ask for in this situation. It's starting to put pressure on Ghost Death, actually. There was a 30-point gap between them going into Spectrouble, and that's narrowed to less than 10. Pretty big gap opening up between Kubrick in Fireman and MC. I was pretty quick to point out earlier, you were like, Ghost Death and Kerpweek, man, they're really in there. And I was like, but these other two, Fireman and MC, are right there with Kerpweek. They were separated by like 5-6 points or something. And after Spectre Ball, the Prophet twin emerges as the truth teller here. 50 points separating Kerpweek from all the other competitors. Fireman and MC still doing a great job of holding on to top 4. Look for these guys to be the favorites heading into next weekend, perhaps. But for now, very close between Zagwigwi, Exodo, LF, and Astrom. And then Saline to Mars, after that great start in Spectre Ball, wasn't able to really close out, and now has a really tough job of picking up this, 43 points in order to get in the top 8 in just this final game, which is going to be Castlevania Area of Sorrow.
This is one of those games, especially where we cannot take anything for granted. It is a very intense run, the movement is super technical, killing the bosses is very technical, can be very hard. The route is not forgiving at all. You just go full ham on the hardest boss like 10 minutes in, as you can see right now, Death. You have a lot of specific RNG manips to execute correctly, and if you don't, it helps you, it's like mandatory. We've seen last 2 weeks ago, for the first time, the no creaking skull run from Cute Shadow, and it actually worked well for them. So it is a game that takes a lot of practice at the different outcomes. If you want to have a good race practice, you need to be able to race frequently the game. And it's one of the best game of UD6, in my opinion. It's a very, very interesting speedrun, and it's super cool to watch. So it's going to be a nice finish for that tournament.
Yeah, always a good watch. It's not fun to watch someone not get this RNG manipulation, unless you're Cute Shadow, in which case it was a ton of fun to watch someone play without it. We had said over and over and over again that the creaking skull soul drop that the players are hopefully all going to be getting is it saves time, but honestly not that much time. A lot of players feel like it's totally mandatory, and it wasn't. And just the problem was that you need to know how to play without it, and that requires learning / relearning large portions of the game. So it was something that most people were not up to. If they didn't get the creaking skull drop, they always reset, and it was just a major time loss. And watching Cute Shadow turn that into a minor time loss through, I don't know, just some. They clearly knew what they were doing, so, and put in some practice time, or was following a really old route or something. I don't know, but it was great to watch. I don't know if we'll see it again. And I'd rather not. I'd rather everyone has done that they're looking for with these RNG manipulations, because they are they're pretty tough. Everyone's got their consistency up pretty high, surprisingly high for such a difficult trick. But it's still hard to do. So that's going to be the number one thing is RNG manipulations, starting with Creaking Skull, Flame Demon, Succubus, and those whole chains, the multi-manipulations coming in will be a big factor. And the death fight. We've seen good players die at this fight, and it's, the save point is right outside the door, but it is such a long fight because you're so underpowered that if you die late into the fight, it can also be over a minute easily. So that's going to be the thing to watch out for, the things to watch out for sure.
Yeah, the movement overall is not going to matter too much if you are not going for 30 minutes. If you just are aiming for a good UD6 times, you want to focus on what you've said, but still, you can lose time everywhere. It's nothing's free. Even the backdash jumps on at the start of the game, because we are skipping the flying armor, are not easy. When we started the races for Area of Sorrow, everybody was getting that flying armor, and then it got to the point where everybody was, I need to gain those 30 seconds, those 40 seconds, so everybody went for it, and it's a game where the skill is just ramping up pretty in a crazy fashion. So let's go for every runner. LF, Exodo, Zigwigwi, and Silent Mars we are going to focus on. And Zigwigwi is playing on the actually original console on the GameCube, Game Boy player. I'm not sure what the name of that technology is. Everybody else is probably on emulator.
Yeah, I think I saw MC. I don't know if I'm crazy or if the players got swapped. Okay, well, I'm definitely looking at an emulator window now, so I stand corrected. But the players are all off and running. There's a base lard drop that you can hope for at the very beginning, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. The players are going to be relying mostly on the power of the creaking skull early on to lift the weight. It starts with this sleep here. This is setting the RNG back to a base state, and then through controlled positioning and attacks and getting hit and things like that all advance or don't advance the RNG counter. You can make sure that you get the right pattern, and Saline de Mars gets the drop. LF and Exodo both don't, so this is pretty bad news for both of them. We'll see how it goes for Zigwigwi. Yes, so we got 50% success rate on this drop here.
Which is fantastic, because it's only like a 2% drop rate, I think, so it is right. It is supposed to be super rare. Silent Mars is actually getting the flying armor, so making me lie about everything I said before. And that trick is super specific. It's probably like off-putting when you are getting into Eye of Source speedrunning. It doesn't help like getting the players actually enjoying their time with the game. It is like actually very specific to get the drops, and LF is not getting it a second time. That's exactly why you need to practice probably like the Q Shadows route, where you don't get the creaking skull, because each time you restart you lose about 40 seconds, and this is the second time for Exodo and LF. They're going to be running like from behind now. Zigwigwi having a nice lead over Silent Mars just because of that detour for the flying armor, making good use of it right now. And you'll see the runners grabbing a lot of potions and buying a lot of potions along the way, because it's just mandatory. You are so under level that you need to heal from time to time.
Yeah, especially the death fight. It's probably gonna come in handy at some point. Exodo backdashed in and didn't get the kill, so didn't get all the spear hits there. Is resetting to try this once again. This is a huge roadblock for Exodo. This is the kind of thing where it is a really tough situation to be in a race, because you can't just not do this, right? You know that you need to get on the board and get points. There are people like Saline de Mars who are on a fantastic run right now, and if they put up 130, 140, 150 points, even if you thought you were safe way up in 5th or 6th, you can find yourself suddenly being overtaken with a 0 on Aria of Sorrow. So really, really is hoping for this. I don't think that's going to work. No, going to have to reset again. Exodo really struggling here. Saline de Mars doing very well, thanks to that manipulation, and also due to some safety with the flying armor. Zigwigwi very close behind Saline de Mars, and LF kind of caught in the middle here.
Yeah, LF chose to get the flying armor as well, so you have like 5 jumps, I'd say, using like the backdash plus jump. If you are not like 100% confident that you'll make them first try, it's probably good for you to get the flying armor, because it generally helps with movement. Sadly, switching between souls is kind of slow, and you have to get used to make a lot of menuing. Menuing is very important in any games that comport any aspect of it, but usually runners don't like menuing too much compared to straight up platforming execution. But that's something to keep in mind. Silent Mars entering the Manticore fight. I'm not scared, although we've seen recently players die to it, but the creaking skull does so much damage. Should be Nice. Sandomars making super sure they don't take any hits, so they don't even have to wait for that orb, but they choose to get it anyway, just to be sure.
Just to be sure is not a bad mindset to have in this game, especially when it comes to keeping your health total high. It's definitely not as big a concern here as it is later on, but I can respect the choice. Exodo currently has no PB posted for Aria of Sorrow, so this was definitely a question mark here as to how prepared they would be for this situation. They finally get the Creaking Soul drop, but then they just pause for a little bit there. I'm not sure if that was like a fist pump or
yeah,
just taking a moment to collect themselves or what, but they do have that soul now. They're going to be able to continue and actually play the game, at least for a little bit now. No flying armor, so we are going to be seeing that backdash jump.
LF playing safe in the chapel here. This is like we have 4 players choosing to for different strats, but it's going to be interesting to see how well it goes later on, because this is the safer and easier part of the game, and the runners are clearly choosing to take literally no risk, and it is a tough game, and I'm a little bit concerned for the what's remaining. Maybe they're just like playing safe for the entire game and just showing they're ready, but the game is pretty unforgiving to new runners, I'd say. And the manips that are upcoming, that are mandatory, and the boss fights are going to be crazy. But the great armor is here. It should not be any issue for Sandomars and Zigwigwi. It's protecting the double jump, and the double jump is totally mandatory if you want to navigate the castle.
Yeah, it helps a lot just for obvious reasons. I mean, it's a double jump in a platformer, so it's going to have all sorts of applications. It's not just, you know, a colored beam to open doors of a certain color. It's going to help out in all sorts of ways in combat and in boss fights and things. So, lovely item to have. Saline to Mars and Zigwigwi almost in sync here, going through door transitions, except flying armor is going to allow Saline to Mars to avoid taking some hits in that sequence. So this handy little soul is going to come in handy for more than just increasing your consistency on some of the backdash jumps. But Saline to Mars, ever fearful of this game, is going to go ahead and save again at this save point. Zigwigwi is going to go without, so we are going to see a bit of a difference. Zigwigwi did get cursed, so has lost all his MP. I'm not sure if that's going to be much of a factor at this point. I don't think so. I think he's going to be okay.
It's going to be a little bit harmful on a couple of rooms, because you need the Creaking Skull to clear all the enemies, but the MP just regens so fast they should be fine, actually. The status on like the curse and the poison status on Aria of Sorrow are pretty weird. Curse means MP is depleting, why not? Poison means you are taking more damage and dealing less damage, which does not sound like a poison effect to me.
No, it sounds like a curse, honestly. Yeah. And the thing that drains over time sounds like poison.
It's like, I'd love to be like to have like archive documents about how dev process went, because there are like some inconsistencies on Eye of Sorrow, as we see Zigwigwi struggling with the jump here that Sandomars made first try thanks to the flying armor, and even if they saved, they pass Zigwigwi, but struggle on that room where Sandomars got stuck for a second is awful. It's filled with enemies and with cycles, and the wing skeleton are actually random-ish, and they got stuck for a little bit, but they are going to make their way to the teleporter. They will allow them to go back to the beginning of the game.
So we saw the lead change twice in the matter of just a couple seconds there, and as close as these guys are, I won't be surprised if we see a couple more before we're done. LF and Exodo, I think, maybe had a high five there. I'm not quite sure which of the two sequences they were in. Yeah, here it comes. Bam. Perfect. It was great. I loved it. I'm looking for... we might see some more. There's a fair bit of backtracking in this game. It turns out It is a Vania, as in part of Metroidvania. It is one of those games. Things open up, let you explore new areas from old areas. So there is a little bit of backtracking. Not too much, though. Maybe forging ahead through new areas with some sequence breaking and avoiding most of it.
You come back to the beginning a lot, though.
Yeah.
That's
that's where the shop is, so yeah. It's not too bad.
It's the central corridor where you will go through like 4 times. But for the floating gardens that are kind of supposed to be like a center point of the castle, because with the weird wrapping you can get to a lot of places from there. We are just going to choose like the perfect path to the clock tower and get we actually are not supposed exactly to be able to go there right now, but since the platform had that weird property that if you jump on a corner of a platform, it is 1 pixel lower. The runners made their way up there with a precise jump and are able to go to the clock tower right now. So this is like a major sequence break. It doesn't involve any glitch, but as the category is glitchless, but we are not supposed to be there right now at all. That's why we've seen the Manticore, like the boss fight we fought about like 5 minutes ago, for the second time, and as of now we cannot kill anything pretty much. Everything will kill us super quickly, and we will not stop to fight anything anymore.
Yeah, there's a big damage upgrade coming in the form of the Mistletoe sword that can thankfully be obtained without too much fuss in the clock tower, and it's kind of the only reason why this is sane to do at all, and especially in a race, because the huge damage upgrade and the Holy Elemental is going to allow us to have a reasonable chance to fight death. But it's still going to be a very tough, very long fight. It starts with these spears that Saint Damaris is throwing. Don't use spears, but it is faster to break it from a distance, and you grab that. And now, if you had to, you could maybe get rid of some things on your way through the clock tower, but it is certainly faster just to pass them in most situations, though he does wake up some of these enemies before he has a chance to run past them. Does take 1 hit, and is, below half health here, but I think he's going to be okay.
Nice.
Yeah, getting really aggressive on that Harpy.
Yeah, just went with smacking him with the Mistletoe, where Zigugu is actually opting to use the creaking skull everywhere, like that big giant like arm is doing a lot of work on those Medusa heads. Sound Mars is struggling a little bit, dodging everything, and Zigugu is right ahead of them, like 2 rooms, and they will both go to the save room. Sound Mars only having 43 HP. I'm a little bit concerned because those harpies can be pretty harmful, but they chose to just gently fly towards him, so it's okay. And now Zigugu and Sound Mars both entering the death fight.
This is a very arduous process. Zigugu opening up the fight by getting hit a number of times by these very tricky scythes that spawn throughout the fight. They're on intervals, so hopefully they spawn somewhere where it's easy to see them, so you know where they are. Even better if they're moving in such a way as to not really be too much of a problem. They tend to head right towards you, though, so unless you're, jumping really high at the moment it decides to move and then you land, stuff like that, it can sometimes go off course in a way that's not a problem. Usually they're a problem, and that's assuming that they spawned in a nice place to begin with. There's a good chance that they're going to spawn, on top of Death's sprite and be kind of unclear, or on top of yours, and so that can be a problem. Moving on to the second phase now for both players. Saline trying to outrun to the side on that long dash attack. That's generally not going to work out, so both players are down to about half health, can take 1 more hit before they need to dip into some of their potions. It's going to be it's looking okay.
2 hits, 9 HP.
Hit 9. Oh man, okay.
They don't heal. They don't care.
Not going into the menu. Not in the menu. Okay. Is he out of potion?
It's okay.
It's great.
9 HP is nice, you know. It's like
1-0.
The one that counts is the one. The one. Oh no! And 101 sadly is higher than 9, so they will die. They saved, so the fastest way to get back is actually like resetting the console and charging back up to the save room. But Sandomos is way ahead now, and LF actually is even past the Gwigwi because of that death, and dying costs so much in Eye of Sorrow. But yeah, if you saved, it's all good.
Yeah, you mean you saved at like the last possible moment before entering this fight. The save room's just right outside, but the fight is just so long that when you die on that second phase the way he did, it is just a major time loss. It's what's allowed LF to catch up. His Creaking Skull's been caught in kind of a weird situation. Sometimes just, the way this fight goes, the scythe dashes from left side to right side, and you kind of have to commit to having your Creaking Skull being on one side or the other of you, so sometimes you can get caught out of position, awkwardly swinging at nothing. Take a look at all the other players, either in the clock tower or fighting death. Fireman Kerpikwi looks like he just got the finishing blow. MC is on the first phase. Ghost Death is saving outside the boss room, I think, and he's after the boss, so he is going to be moving on. It looks like he's in third place. No, second. Exodo is, I think, on their first trip through the clock tower. Sailing Damaris, having already finished the boss, is now tripping down and showing off the Skula that lets you dive underwater. It's kind of the whole reason we came this way so early.
Yeah, this is mandatory, not because it's guarding Dracula's tower or anything, just because it's guarding the ability to swim, which is a big downgrade from the other Castlevania's game. But still, you have to beat it because like half of the castle is past the underground reservoir, where we are actually heading right now. But Sandomos first is going to go and do some shopping. We are actually going to buy the War Fatigues, which are a good armor that gives extra strength, so that means extra damage, so it's always a good thing to have. And everything else will go to potions, whether HP or MP potions, but you need a lot of those. Very slow menuing from Sandomos here, just struggling, making his mind, deciding what he wants to buy. Going for 3 eye potions and 2 minds up probably, and just this is a slow menuing, but it's going to be, they'll get there. That's the menuing in that game is pretty difficult because you can see only 4 items at a time, and it's not the best user experience. But it's going to be fairly nice. Now Sandomos has the War Fatigues, no weapon. They sold everything to buy a lot of minds up, high minds up, potions and high potions. So they have to find something else now. And thankfully in the underground reservoir, right at the start, we'll find the Rahab swords that we'll just use to kill 1 flame demon with and 1 triton, and we'll swap it right away with the Leviathan. So I really like that round because we try to make use of as much as possible, and we just grab anything that's on the way and just deal, okay, that will do, and we get the sword, kill something, get another sword, and it's pretty great. So Sandomos is getting there. But yeah, in the game everything drops souls. A lot of those are garbage, like probably 90% are just useless, and 3 of them are totally mandatory to beat the game. And except for that, we are using the Triton Souls that gives you plus 16 damage, the Creaking Skull, as we've seen a lot, and we'll also drop the Red Minotaur that will deal huge amount of damage on the last bosses, so it's going to be pretty great. But everything else is actually useless, and you do not want them, because that actually freezes the screen for the name of the soul to display, and you just lose time, so you just don't want to kill anything, you just don't want to drop anything.
We actually saw Sailing Damaris get the Boer, I don't know how to say it, B-U-E-R, Boer, drop from pretty early on. It was right as we were talking about creaking soul drops. Cillian Damar's got that soul pretty early on, and yeah, not only does it cost time for it to get absorbed, but it also goes into your inventory. And so when you're trying to do these menus and you're used to things in a certain place, that can be different if you've got a random soul drop, and that can trip you up a little bit too. So they cost you double, and like you said, a lot of them really aren't very good. I was gonna make a joke about how even though the Rahab sword only gets used to kill one thing, we still grab it and use it. Like, we use every part of the blow here in Dracula's castle, but then you said there's 90 souls and most of them are garbage and we don't use them, so got undone a little bit. Cillian Damar's walking through these Tritons, because it is much easier than trying to fight them. He's going to have to potion up afterwards, but once he gets to the end of this room, we're going to see a save, reset, and another soul manipulation here. The Triton Soul is going to add 16 strength, I believe it is, which is a flat 16 damage increase, which is a lot. It doesn't seem like a lot, but because the enemies are about to start getting tougher and tougher, the defense is going to start getting higher and higher, and it's just a flat, damage minus defense equals damage dealt. So 16, when you're comparing it to 30 or 40, is actually a huge mark increase. So despite the risk of doing this manipulation, like we saw, didn't quite go so well for Cillian Damar's, and despite the length of time it takes to do the menus and the set and all of that, it is still worth it to pick up this Triton Soul for the back half of the run.
It's actually also mandatory if you have the... there are two setups for this Flame Demon Soul drop, and they are different whether you have the Triton Souls or not. Because you kill Triton with you kill the Flame Demon with 4 hits or 5 hits, depending on what souls you have. But finally, on the third Triton, the mouse gets it. That costs them about a minute, but it's going to be well worth it, as they're going to use it right away and on every subsequent boss. So still pretty good. Making their way down here is actually just to finally get to their Flame Demon. There are 2 or 3 Flame Demons in the game, and you need a Flame Demon Soul. Thankfully, it's one of the highest drop rate in the game, but still, it is a tough one to get overall.
It's made even more difficult by the fact that it's sort of combo manipulated with the Levitain that I didn't quite see, but I don't think Cillian Damar's got it, so he is backing out to reset here as LF gets the Triton Soul drop first try, and is maybe posed to surpass Cillian Damar's. Is still in first, is still on a good run, but Cillian Damar's is looking to make up a fair number of points in this game in order to crack that top 8, so needs needs a good run, but maybe needs a better than good run in some ways, and it's slipping away a little bit here for Cillian Damar's. We'll see if they're familiar with the backups in this situation.
Yeah, a lot of runners have learned the backup. You have just to sleep, backdash, and kill the Flame Demon at the correct spot. The problem with the Flame Demon manips is that it's super sensitive to how far you are to the Flame Demon. So a few pixels out of reach and you will get a different drop. So it can be pretty bad. Cillian Damar's apparently having trouble with the backup, going back and defaulting to restarting the entire manip, sadly, with hitting the wall twice and going back there. LF, I'm not sure they got the Leviathan, but they got the Flame Demon. They did 2
separate manipulations, actually. The Leviathan first backed out, reset, and then did Flame Demon Soul.
Okay, so I was not sure. But I actually think if you fail the Flame Demon drop and you get just the... You fail the Leviathan and you just get the Flame Soul. I'm not sure what you do. You really want to follow through the route, but having the skills to change your route on the go, depending on what drops you get, and knowing exactly whether it's worth it or not, can be kind of tricky. Cillian Damar's not having any HP here, struggling to get their soul to drop. My advice on that specific situation would be just kill the Flame Demon like 4 or 5 times, and you will eventually get it. Do not try to manipulate it, because the drop rate is actually kind of high. So you just, but it's a tough. You just have to rely on luck at that point, and relying on luck on a speedrun can be pretty bad. Zigwigwi is also struggling. They're both like tied to the frame right now, trying to have the drop, and yeah, the Zigwigwi is not having it. I don't understand why. The problem is that the behavior of both other enemies actually changed the RNG, so it's pretty bad. You can see, by the way, how close the emulation is, because when they are going through the menus and all those animation, they take exactly the same amount of time. It's pretty great. Both drops at the same time, doing the manips at the same time. Different setups. Zigwigwi going for the back and forth between screens, and Mars going for the back dashes. They both finally got it, and they're on their way now.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many Levitanes. 3 Levitanes for Salient Demars.
They're
just
rich.
Swimming in them. Yeah, you can sell that for money. Money counts for potions. Potions counts for a lot in this game, so that is some increased safety. But I'm sure Salient Demars would rather have the 3-4 minutes, like something ridiculous lost to this flame team and manipulation for Salient Demars, and varying amounts of time lost for Zigwigwi and LF. Exodo yet to reach. Getting a Needles drop, going to be too happy to see that. As LF is into the Balor fight onto the second phase, I think can take 1 hit in these flames, but is not going to happen. Well, is going to at the very end, but most importantly gets the kill, gets the Balor soul, is going to wait for this health refill because he is in a very dangerous area and doesn't want to have to go through it with that low health, but he is going to pick up the Bat Soul. So we can fly now. This is a great way to get around the castle. Your hitbox is smaller too, so it lets you kind of weave in and out of enemies that are in your way, and most importantly, it gets you access to the final corridor where the players can head up and, before engaging with some of the final boss sequences of the game, more manipulations. I'm not sure that no one here is looking forward to more manipulations. Exodo had the creaking skull manipulation problems early on, is the reason why they're so far behind, and all 3 of the other players have missed manipulation at least once, and yeah, it's not something they're going to be looking forward to, I'm sure. Seeing MC on the Balor fight, Ghost Death already into the final corridor, is looking very strong here. This is what we expected to see. Ghost Death has a fantastic Aria of Sorrow time.
Fireman
in the...
They just got the bats, they are just behind Ghost Death. They're doing great as well. It's LF is right behind them, defaulting to go back and do some shopping before getting to the top floor. So LF is losing even more time, and so LF, A-Storm, Sandomos, and Ayash are pretty close together on that 8 or around the 8th place. Exodo is at 494. If they don't beat the game on time, it's going to be super tough for them to make it. I'm pretty sure Sandomars and A-Storm would pass them. So it's actually like very intense for Exodo. They have to beat the game in under 50 minutes. They have to get there, but they don't have the Triton Souls yet. They are struggling with all the manips. They don't have time, as you said, on Eye of Sorrow, so they probably are a little bit under practiced. And yeah, this is not an easy situation to be in.
We've had a good run of players on stream the last few times we've had this game. It can be easy to forget just how difficult this game is. It's it's up there. It's not quite Shovel Knight, but it's up there with it and Donkey Kong Country as the hardest game to learn to speedrun and to perform well in a race in the UD6 season, and indeed maybe even the entire UD catalog. It is dense, and it's got these very tricky manipulations that are pretty punishing if you don't get them, and it shows here. The players have done a fantastic job of making this game look so much easier, and it is in past races in the past little while, and we're getting a taste of just how nasty it can be here with the way they're going for some of our players.
Yeah, I'm feeling for them. It's not an easy game, and some players love the RNG manips, and actually like so it appeals to some people to run Metroidvania's game, because you just like, it's a way to solve the puzzle as best as possible. You do not have to get lost and wander in the castle. You just like go exactly where you need to go and get everything done in the correct way. And but it can also like be hard because you do not go the intended route. You just like the arena, for example, the room where Axodo is right now is one of the hardest in the entire game. Like it's brutal, so you have to learn like very specific manips everywhere just to be able to navigate normally through the game. Actually taking a lot of damage here. There are a few rooms away from the next save, so they have to be super careful. They will actually use a potion and get a nice level up here. Leveling up increases your max MP and HP, and it's also a nice thing to have. It also increases your strength by 1, so it's not much, but at the end of the during the Julius fight, you can deal like the damage can varies from a player to another one depending on the experience they got.
1 damage also counts for a fair bit more against a couple fights where the defense is very high at the, particularly like the core of the final boss has such high defense that 1, you know, multiplied by all the hits you're doing with the Muramasa, that it actually could make a difference of 1 hit or 2 over the course of the fight. Very minor, but nice to have. So now into the Balor fight, as Zguigui is dealing with the triple manipulation of the I can't remember if it's the Muramasa or the Masamune or the Murasame.
Muramasa. Okay. Yeah, I never know. It's like one of those famous
Japanese swordsmith.
Sword, yeah. It's but they did not get it. Muramasa, here we go. So they did get it, equipped it immediately, get the winged skeleton soul to get those spears off, get 2 whiffs here, and then go to town on the succubus, get the drops very nicely, and go directly to the Minotaurs. Got perfectly the triple manip there. That must feel great, because the final drop on the red Minotaur starts with a pixel perfect hit on both like the Minotaur and the Valkyrie, and it is not easy at all. So I was scared for a little, but it's okay.
Yeah.
The save is right there, but that must feel like awesome. And they just passed LF. They just passed. They are ahead of Sandomar, so they are in first place. LF dying. I hope they saved right before getting to the red Minotaur, but that's
I was sure
unlikely.
I saw LF pick up the red Minotaur soul earlier, like went to that Minotaur to get it, and then I look over and they're doing it again, and then they die. So it was a really weird sequence. It's even weirder seeing just lingering on the game over screen here. Maybe
I think they did not save.
Disbelief at what happened, and yeah, maybe just accepting the fact that their save is too far back for this to matter.
That one really hurts. Like, usually you save right after the red Minotaur, because the red Minotaur is before the save. And if they did not save, the save before that is all the way after or below or before Balor. So if you have to go back, you have to go through all the game entirely, almost, get the triple manip again, and that's just like 5 minutes lost. I think you'd still have time to beat the game under 15 minutes, but I would totally understand out of frustration and anger that you would not want to go through with it just because it's painful. So yeah, LF apparently is just like saying that it's too much for them. We'll stop right here and default to probably just watching the remainder of the race. Mars is struggling with those lubricants. Zguigui is starting on the Gram fight, actually on the second phase already, using the Muramasa to get as many hits as they can on the core there, and trying not to get hit by those giant hands.
Yeah, got knocked around a little bit, but hopefully has equipped the right souls. I'm not sure what the tell is to look for Ike there when you see the black stuff. You know that the correct souls were indeed equipped to trigger the true ending of the game. We can take a look now at Ghost stepping in for LF, who is, as we expected, to be the leader of the pack in this game. And definitely already has Black Panthers, is done with Graham, it has Hippogriff as well, that Zigwigwi will be picking up shortly, and is racing off towards the Julius fight. Ghost Death already in first place by a fair bit, and unlikely to fall. So if you want to see the best player placed in Castlevania, key on the top left corner of your screen. But for now, Exodo really needs to hit these manipulations to give themselves the best chance they have of finishing the game in time. They've got the Muramasa. They're heading into the Succubus. This is the necessary part of this manipulation, this soul drop here. Spear transforming back, and too close? No, he's okay.
I was scared. If you are too close to that succubus, you will get strangled. We've seen that a lot. Oh, and sadly they got the triple hit on the Minotaur. That's super unfortunate. If you are too close to the Minotaur, you will get triple hit. You will kill him in one hit instead of two, and it doesn't drop in that case. That's actually pretty sad. So they have to default to the backup, and see, the save is just right on one room on top there, and LF did not went there. It's totally understandable. That's a big detour just to be safe, and that red Minotaur is not supposed to touch you. Getting the level up messed up the manip, I guess, and having to reset.
Shoot. Do you keep the level up? Yes.
Yep.
Right?
So,
yeah, okay.
You do. So
otherwise it would just still be a problem next time around. But Minotaur Soul in hand for Exodo, very close behind Salient and Damaris, and both still poised to, at least finish under the cutoff. 52 minutes, I believe, is what the players are going to be concerned about. We've got this Julius fight that we can see Ghost Death in, as well as the final boss fight, or kind of the last two main blocks. There's a bit of shopping to do and a heck of a lot of traversal around the castle, but that's made quite a bit shorter by the Black Panther. So yeah, we've got those fights, and of course the Grand fight.
Grand fight on Saint Mars. You have to hit the guy as much and as fast as you can. You try to get some raid Minotaurs going, as you see on Axelo's screen, but it's you have to be careful not to kill him without equipping the correct souls. So it's all the balance of tracking his HP. Saint Mars is not using MP, which is surprising, but they have a lot of Leviathan on the side, so they could just go full ham and just buy a lot more potions later on, but they're just doing the fight slowly, and it's going to be quite hard. Axolotl got 3 red Minotaurs done, so they should swap souls pretty soon, or Grammy will die. Yeah, here we go. I wonder, let's count how many hits they need, but
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe not as close as we thought.
I thought
11,
it was
12, 13,
closer.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah, that was not. That was actually way higher than I expected. Maybe they missed a double hit on a red Minotaur or something. But that's something you have to practice. You have to get a very good feel on how much HP Grammys still has. You do not have a boss health bar or anything, so you have to have a very, very good understanding. Sandemars and Exodo very, very close together, starting the Gram phase 2. Zigwigwi on the Julius fight almost died there, and actually dodging the hits on the first phase there. It's a tough fight. It's not an easy boss fight. Even when you're playing normally through the game and you have a lot of HP, it's not an easy boss fight. It's very interesting. I like the way Julius moves, but you have to understand exactly how the patterns go. Julius staggers every 4 hits, but that gives them iframes, and it's annoying to deal with. They can teleport around and not being hittable at the time, so Julius can be annoying.
So we're now getting into the second phase. This is where a lot of the classic Castlevania sub-weapons come out, but most of them are kind of easier to deal with than a lot of the other things that Julius already does with the dive kicks and the slides. And the whip is probably your biggest opportunity to deal damage by baiting out the standing whip and then ducking under it. But if you duck too early, he's going to whip you in the face by kind of reading your movements and ducking down to meet you. So it is a good opportunity for damage, but it's also pretty easy to get hit. A little, not quite close enough, getting hit in the face by that holy water, but is going to be able to finish off the fight. Overall, very good fight. They're going to have a lot of potions and stuff left over for the final sequence of the game. The Death is just now heading into Alien to Mars, is running into some cockatrice with the Black Panther. It does damage, so if there's like a really enemy, it'll kill it and you can plow through, but it's not going to take out a cockatrice.
I love how nobody cares anymore. As soon as you have like full HP plus Black Panther, everybody's like, yeah, hit me in the face. See, I don't care. It's like you have such a burst of power at that point in the game. It's pretty great. I mean, you've killed Graham Jones, you've done pretty much everything, so it's very nice of the game to give you that opportunity to just go fast and go through everything that you're missing through Eye of Sorrow. And but yeah, it makes the player play a little bit recklessly, and especially in the Chaos realm, as you see on Zigwig's screen, it's pretty easy to die from that. Like, they drop to 82 HP here actually, so you have still to be pretty careful, but it's hard to manipulate. You go way too fast for your own safety, so it's all a balance between going fast and knowing what you're doing and actually executing it perfectly. Ghost Death entering phase 2, we are going to see a lot of Red Minotaur here. The drop and the hassle going through dropping that souls is totally justified just with that fight by itself. It's crazy.
Yeah, the defense that the core has, also due to the nature of all the hitboxes you need to spread out literally in the far corners of the screen. Nothing really does damage to this boss the way the Red Minotaur Soul does, racking up hundreds of damage on the eyes, and defeating the eye is necessary to drastically lower the defense of the core, which is what you're really worried about. Finding the last few hits here on the eyes, yeah, so he's going to be able to go to work on the core now, and even when it's fully exposed and you've got your multi-hit Murasame sword or Muramasa swords, or it's still not going to match up to the raw power of hitting it twice with the Red Minotaur Soul, so we are going to convert all our mana potions into more and more damage until we're out of those. And meanwhile, Julius fights for Exodo and Sailing to Mars.
Julius, once again, you have to count your hits so you know exactly when he's going to go to that stagger stance. He's going to follow you around pretty closely, so if you duck, he's going to duck and hit you, so you have to know their movement. Ghost Death is just done with the game. Zigug is starting the Chaos fight, and yeah, the Jules fight is one of the most interesting boss fights in the UD, and we have a lot of boss fights on that selection, but this one especially. And it's pretty nice to get it down, like to get consistent at King Julius, but being fast at doing so is actually another story. You'll see a lot of different strats, but we can see every runner here is actually not using their nor Balor or the Death Scythe. They're just going for Black Panther, which is the safer option, but you do not have like that damage output extra on the boss. So it's a little bit slower, but it's safer. MC in particular is playing super safe. He's not going close and personal, even on phase 2, so they're losing a lot of time. And finally, Yaxolo gets to phase 2. They're going to they're going to kill Jules before the MC, because MC is not getting so many hits down. Using another potion, they don't have so many left. And Axolo finally using the sights from the Death Soul, which is pretty great. Julius is having the entire arsenal from the classic Castlevania game, the axe, the water, holy water, the cross, it's pretty cool. And they're dealing a lot of damage. All their attack actually hurts quite a lot. 127 for Exodo, they have to heal. Time the Moss should be done quite soon, and MC is finally in the Chaos Realm.
Yeah, so Sailing to Mars has switched to scythes here, and I think this is probably the right play, because I was watching them when they had Black Panther, and they weren't using it. The whole point of Black Panther is you can dash straight through Julius, and whatever he's about to do is not going to hit you, and you're not going to hit him because you're going to put him into iframes or whatever to let you dash through him. So, and then once you're behind him, you get a free hit or two. So it's really easy that way, but. He just wasn't using it, so if you're not going to be using it, might as well have this damage going from the Death Soul. Needs a little bit of a pick-me-up to finish things off here, but Julius has got to be on his last legs now, as MC and Exodo are both done heading through the Chaos Realms. Zguigui almost done with this boss fight now, is out of mana, is just chopping away at the core, trying to get nice and high to get these multi-hits. Sailing to Mars done with the Julius fight. And Zguigui finishes with 46 minutes on the clock. So 52 is the cutoff, 6 minutes for these players to race through a Chaos Realm and finish off this final boss. This is doable,
yeah,
but it's cutting it pretty close.
It's okay. That's where I'm pretty sad for LF not having to come back and beat in the game from their previous save. I'm pretty sure they could have done it. It's understandable, once again, not to want to just pick up the controller when you die. Up to myself, I'm heartbroken just when I lose like gold in Shovel Knight, so having to go back through the half of the game is just unbearable for me. But they would have had time. Still, the Chaos fight is not the easiest of all. It's probably one of those, like between Graham Jones, Julius and Chaos, we haven't seen so much Chaos fight death, but it's not an easy one, especially when you used a lot of potions like all three runners on screen did on Julius. You can be a little bit scared. The first phase hurts quite a lot. You do not have the same damage output as when the route was using the Claim Solace, so it's just a slow and tedious fight. But on the second phase we'll have Red Minotaur, and that's going to deal a lot of damage, so that should be okay.
Sailing to Mars didn't like the pattern he got from this armor and backed out and then ran into it anyway, so he's not having a great... There we go, Hippogriff managing to get over the armor there. A lot of players usually get a hit there, so I like the strat. I like having a strat to get past him without getting hit, but it didn't quite work out. Into the boss fight now is Exodo, going to work on these these targets here. They move around kind of in and out of reach, and especially the blue one that just leaves and goes away somewhere. I mean, he's trying to get you, but most of the time he's just annoyingly not something you can hit, so he's generally the one you want to be swinging at if you can. Exodo actually abandoning yellow to double jump up there to make sure that he's a priority, and now blue is out of the way. Capriquick into the boss fight proper with the Minotaur Soul. Is opting to finish off these eyes manually, even though I think the strength of the Red Minotaur Soul is being able to hit opposite sides of the screen at once. Regardless, he's going to save that for the core while it's lower on defense. Batting away these green orbs that kind of annoyingly close in on you.
They're super annoying. They're not like they move very slowly, but they're just like moving towards you. And when they touch you, like it deals so much damage. But the Red Minotaur makes a good job killing Chaos there. Exodo and starting the fight. You have to kill those four eyes. Even though I still don't know if it's mandatory to kill all 4 eyes before killing the core. I yet have to test that myself. But each give so much armor to the center core that it's not worth it to ignore them. But still, like just for the knowledge. I'd love to know. 49 minutes. It's getting close for Salian to finish on time. Actually, the boss fight can be quite long, as you can see on the MC and Axado screen. Like the Chaos has its 3k HP per orb. So the eyes, the core, the 3 orbs on the first phase it's all 3k HP, and it has a lot of armor, so it's just very long to go through that. So Sandemos has to hurry up now.
This is also a weakness of Sailing to Mars popping up, and then it's got a lot of menus. You need to go in and out of this menu constantly to refill your MP and use these red Minotaur souls. And we saw Salian struggling a little bit shopping earlier, so hopefully is going to be able to menu fast enough to make this happen. Honestly, I'm not sure. It's going to be very close. Cutting it pretty close on the health front here, taking a hit down to 46. How are we looking in here? I'm not... Oh my goodness. Pretty low.
Yeah.
Pretty low on potions.
They don't have much left. They're going to have like 1 minute, and this is not how long the first phase should take. So, okay, 1 minute. Sandemars, he has to deal like 3k HP to the core, so that's 2 red Minotaur for the eyes, plus a few hits, and then they have like still 7 Hind Minds up left, which is pretty good. So, like, see, that's so much damage. So that's 1k per red Minotaur for each of the eyes. It's insane. So 3 should do it, and then okay. Oh, they all have the same amount of HP, but they do not all take double hits. I do not understand that fight. And then they're going to use or try to use the red Minotaur, but not have enough MP to do so. It takes so much MP to use the red Minotaur, and then have a little bit of a menuing mishap there, and no more MP, so they have to go through the hits slowly. It's like 50 damage per when you get the three hits. It's so slow.
So the timer is ticking past 52 minutes here, but yep. That is gonna do it. I was gonna say, stream delay and things can happen, but no way are you gonna recover from that death. Sailing to Mars trying to make it happen. Had the opportunity, LF finish. If Sailing to Mars finished on the board, that would have been a top 8, but with a no-show in the final game, I think LF once again is going to barely sneak into another top 8, and Sailing to Mars is going to finish just outside.
Yeah, Sailing to Mars had some convincing run. They clearly did their best on DKC and Eye of Sorrow. It's heartbreaking to see them not being able to finish on time on Eye of Sorrow because it's so close, and it is one of this is the tournament with the best Spectrable results, hands down, and one of the best Trials 2 results. This is great. We do not have the 220 by Skunkoff, but except that this is a lot of 16 and 17 times, which is very great. And Metal Slug is average, like always. It's not. It's a lot of 14 minutes time. And Eye of Sorrow, this is the first time it's so hard on the players. The manips did not work. The movement overall was well executed. Obviously, the runners know their route and what they're doing. But the boss fights were the death fight was actually pretty great for everybody. Nobody died on death. Oh, Zigwigwe did die, but except for that, nobody but one, which is always bad. And but yeah, the manips and yeah, that's only the manips actually. That's the biggest, then toughest point in the run, and defaulted to having no times for LF, Ice Storm, Sandemos, and Ayash, which is pretty tough.
Yeah, definitely the toughest showing for Eye of Sorrow that we've seen. But that's the way it goes. We're gonna have 4 people qualifying in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th who didn't finish a game. We're going to have 2 people in qualifying who didn't finish 2 games. It's going to be hard for Zguigui, Exodo, LF, and Aestrom to really challenge Ghost as Quick Fireman and MC next weekend.
Next weekend is going to be okay because it's 5 different games. So you could have like struggle on DKC or Metal Slug and have no problem whatsoever on the 5 other games. So Shovel Knight, Cuphead, A Story About My Uncle, Inertia, and The End Is Nigh. 5 vastly different titles, still very platform focused, but like the speedruns are very, very different. So we'll see. And that's that's how the cookie crumbles. Sometimes you are doing like better on the first one or the second one, but clearly Ghost Death is going to be one of the favorites for the entire month, I think.
Yeah, not only is Ghost Death one of the strongest players, on the leaderboard in terms of PBs, he is the most fresh, the most practiced, has been putting in a ton of time very recently into UD, so a lot of this is fresh in his mind, and also just seems to perform very well in races. It cannot be understated how important it is to be not only good but consistently good to do well in UD, and it seems like it's a skill that Ghost Death has. So is going to be a force to be reckoned with heading into top 4, heading into top 2, and maybe even grand finals can start to make some of our top runners who have already qualified, start to challenge them even. But that's getting way ahead of myself. Yeah. There's still many steps left to get there. This was just the first. We've got our top 8 now. All 8 players, I guess scheduling aside, will be the 8 competing next weekend. They're going to be playing those 5 other games, like you said, that off the top of my head, I got a list. Your Story About My Uncle, Cuphead, Shovel Knight is going to be the big one, The End Is Nigh, and Inertia. 2 first-person games, getting a fresh new perspective is going to be testing a totally different skill set, like you said. And Shovel Knight has problem for a lot of people, so we'll see if some of the new timing elements affects. Obviously times of a certain time now aren't going to get 0. They are going to get 100, 105 or something. But it's also, I think, going to make a difference in how players feel about coming into the Shovel Knight. They're going to feel a little less nervous, and I think that will also just see an improvement in Shovel Knight. So I am looking forward to that. I always just look forward to seeing that game. It is a blast.
Yeah, so Ghost Death, Quick, Fireman, MC166, Zguigui, Axel, LF, and Aestorm, if they're able to, will race through those 5 games next week at 5 p.m. CST, that's 11 a.m. EDT, 8 a.m., that's super early if you're on the Pacific, West Coast. Yeah, stay tuned. And before that, obviously, on Speed Gaming, you have a lot of things to watch today and tomorrow. The schedule is crazy. So tell us a little bit about that.
Let me maximize this window because they're so squished together that I can't. We got Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons. We got Super Meat Boy, Any%, Super Mario Galaxy, Super Castlevania. No, actually, maybe we don't have Castlevania 4. I think there's no room for it across 6 channels. There's Ori Randomizer. There is, of course, we got our Elite the Past Randomizer. Summer tournament is heating up. We're getting into some of the money matches soon, if not already. Celeste continues very far along there. Highly recommend checking out Ori Randomizer, Mega Man 2 Randomizer. At 6 p.m. there's something like 8 matches scheduled. We cannot show them all. So hit that exclamation mark schedule, or I'll do it for you, to see all the stuff happening on Speed Gaming this weekend, and for forever, however long the schedule goes. And if you look a week in advance, you'll see that we'll be back next weekend at those times, like you said, 11 a.m. Eastern Time for me, and we hope to see you there.
Yep. Have a good one, and see you next week.